That was the first time Winnie went into his room. Boys' rooms were always different from girls' rooms. His room was finished in simple colors. His bookcase contained a lot of CD and trophies. Near the window was a phonograph. Winnie put his shirt on the garment steamer and carefully steamed it bit by bit, up and down. Jeffrey raised his head and saw her bend over to steam the lower edge of a shirt. She was wearing a long pink dress. As she bent down, the pink fabric wrapped around her slender and shapely legs. Seeing this, he sensed his blood rush, so he hurriedly turned his eyes away. As she finished steaming the clothes, Winnie put them on his bed neatly and said, "It's done. Get changed." "All right." Jeffrey glanced at her. She had delicious makeup on today, and her dark eyes glistened like juicy grapes. Her neck looked as tender as porcelain, pretty and elegant. "I'm leaving." Winnie quickly walked out of his room. She closed the door, then sighed with relief. After she left, Jeffrey picked up the shirt. It was so perfect steamed. Not one wrinkle could be found. Back in April's room, April's makeup was almost done. "What took you so long?" April asked Winnie. "There was a little event." Winnie answered the question vaguely. "Oh, Winnie, later you and Jeffrey need to block the door. Make it hard for Aaron," said April. Winnie stayed silent. "What's wrong?" Winnie gave a bitter smile and said, "I just have a bad feeling." April comforted her. "You don't need to do anything. Just leave it to Jeffrey." About 40 minutes later, Aaron arrived with his friends. Sylvia was a bridesmaid too, but she was also Aaron's sister. Therefore, she didn't take part in the door-blocking mission. Hearing the noises that Aaron and his friends made, Winnie's brain was blank. She automatically rushed to the door to close it. Before the door was closed, Jeffrey squeezed in, glared at her, and said, "I haven't come in yet. Why did you close the door so early?" "Why were you so late?" Winnie argued back. "Mr. Bennett would have stormed in if I didn't close the door." "I was busy." Jeffrey locked the door and then said to Winnie, "All you have to do is pick up the gifts later." April was a little worried. Jeffrey and Aaron never liked each other at all. "Jeffrey, don't make it too hard for your brother-in-law, or we might miss the perfect timing." "Don't worry. I'm only going to ask him to eat this plate of mustard peanuts while doing one-handed push-ups." Jeffrey took out the plate from behind his back. On the plate were some peanuts, which were covered in mustard sauce. Winnie and April felt sorry for Aaron. A few minutes later, Aaron came over to knock on the door. "Winnie, come open the door. I've already prepared a gift for you. If you don't open the door, you'll have to live with the consequences." Winnie was stressed out. She had already guessed that Aaron would make her the target of his threats. She wasn't scared for anyone, except him. She looked at Jeffrey meekly, who gave her a warning look. At this moment, various flowers were slipped in from under the door. Each flower had a bill attached to it. Winnie's eyes shined as she stared at the flowers. My goodness, euros. April also stared at the flowers. This lunatic was wasting money again. Luckily, Winnie was her best friend, or else her heart would ache. "So what if it is euros? Money is like dirt to me," Jeffrey said coldly. Winnie coughed softly. "I like dirt," April added. "I rather like it too, Jeffrey." These two women had no restraints. No wonder they became good friends. Aaron slid another stack of flowers into the room. Winnie picked up the flowers to take a look. It was all euros, and there were at least a few dozen bills. How about we open the door? Look how tiring it is for Aaron to be slipping flowers in from the floor." Jeffrey glared at her fiercely. "Do you think that he may be the one slipping the flowers in? It is his assistant doing it." "His assistant must also be having a difficult time sliding the flowers in." Winnie felt embarrassed stopping him after receiving so much. Jeffrey couldn't be bothered to reply. At that moment, the sound of a loud commotion came in from outside and the door suddenly opened. April and the rest were stunned while Jeffrey asked with a dark expression, "How did you open the door?" Aaron threw a passive glance at him. "You are so underhanded. I obviously brought a locksmith." Everyone was speechless. April didn't know if she should laugh or cry. He never acted according to what was expected. Aaron's gaze went straight to her. Clad in a snow-white wedding gown with her hair up in a sophisticated bun, she looked soul-wrenchingly beautiful. His chest warmed as he walked over. Jeffrey stood in his way. "You can't possibly want to take my sister away so easily. If you truly love her and you think she's precious, you will do push-ups with one hand and finish this plate of mustard peanuts. I will respect you, and I believe she will be touched when she recalls this wedding day in the future." Aaron quietly looked towards April. "Do you think so too?" April felt awkward. On one hand was her husband, on the other was her brother. She couldn't pick either of them. "All right, let's do it." Aaron saw her keeping silent and nodded his head. Doing push-ups with only one hand was a piece of cake to him. But eating so many peanuts one by one would be difficult. He would rather eat a whole mouthful of peanuts every time he went down while doing the push-ups. Everyone was shocked. Jeffrey's eyes glinted with a small bit of admiration. He had covered the peanuts with a lot of mustard sauce. It tasted so disgusting the moment Aaron bit down. His head felt like it was exploding. However, he had been a soldier, so his endurance was first-rate. He forced himself to keep his cool and finished eating all the peanuts. When he stood up, his handsome face was completely covered in mustard sauce, and his eyes had teared up. However, he still took the bouquet from Richard and knelt down on one knee in front of April. "April, will you marry me? This lifetime, I'll take care of all your fruit peels and beefsteaks." April's eyes stung slightly. She didn't say anything, but only got off from the bed, bent over at her waist, and lightly kissed his lips. He could be so annoying sometimes, but she didn't want him to suffer any pain. Seeing him being tortured made her nervous. Aaron paused briefly, then put his arms around her, gave her a deep kiss, and then put her wedding shoes on her. He took a few pictures with her in the room, then carried her, walking out in big steps. Winnie picked up her party dress and followed behind them. Jeffrey blocked her way and said to her, "Where are my flowers?" Winnie was surprised. "Doesn't money mean nothing to you?" "Yes, but I'll take every penny that I deserve." Jeffrey responded blandly and reasonably. Winnie didn't want to argue with him, so she opened her purse and said, "Just take them." Jeffrey glanced at her purse, then reached out a hand and took away a thick wad of bills, only leaving one in Winnie's purse. Winnie was speechless. Jeffrey put all the bills in his trousers pocket and then turned and left. Winnie couldn't believe it. Her face reddened with anger. She followed him and asked, "Why do I only get one?" "Yeah." Jeffrey nodded and responded calmly. "You didn't do anything but pick up the flowers, so I left you one to thank you for getting them." Winnie took a deep breath. She was unhappy, yet she still wanted to seem polite. After all, she was 3 years older than him. "Like you have contributed a lot. You only made him eat a plate of mustard peanuts." "Yeah, do you know how hard it was to put the mustard sauce on every peanut?" Jeffrey glanced at her, then left with a smile. Looking at his back, Winnie breathed deeply and told herself to be calm. As the two houses were close to each other, Aaron carried April and made a circle in the neighborhood. Following behind them were Rolls Royces. It was a rare and grand scene. Back at the Bennett mansion, April found that it was decorated with lanterns and streamers. Their bedroom was tastefully decorated as well. April didn't even recognize it at first. According to the tradition, they left for the hotel at 10. The wedding car was a limo, and the bride, bridesmaids, and groomsmen were all in the same car. Sylvia said to Jeffrey and Winnie, "You two received so many bills, and I didn't get anything. Shouldn't you share with me?" Winnie turned to Jeffrey. Jeffrey took some out of his trousers pocket and handed them to Sylvia. "Wow, 20! Jeffrey, thank you," Sylvia said delightfully. "I have a fortune." Winnie stayed silent. She was very unhappy, as Jeffrey treated her and Sylvia so differently. Winnie silently turned her eyes away from Jeffrey. She didn't want to look at him anymore, as she didn't want to become angrier. She decided she would completely ignore him when she saw him again. Aaron gave Winnie a meaningful glance and then looked at Jeffrey. He clearly remembered the number of flowers he prepared. As Jeffrey's trousers pocket was still bulging, Aaron assumed he still had a lot of rolled-up bills he had attached to each of the flowers, even though he had just given some to Sylvia and Richard. Maybe Winnie got one or two, if any. This young man is even more shameless than I am. He bullies women, Aaron thought. After reaching the hotel, Aaron brought Jeffrey and Richard with him to receive guests downstairs. April went upstairs to fix her makeup. After the women went upstairs, Aaron walked until he was in front of Jeffrey and thoughtfully said, "Lad, as someone who is experienced, let me tell you that you shouldn't be too shameless sometimes. You might not be able to find a girlfriend." Jeffrey looked at him from head to toe a few times and replied, "If even you could find one, surely I can." He turned and walked to the door to receive guests. Aaron stared at his back with a hateful glare. Richard walked over and placed one arm on his shoulder. "He isn't wrong." Aaron coldly shrugged Richard's hand off. "I'm not close to you." Not close, yet still asked Richard to be his groomsman. Richard grated his teeth. He saw Jennifer walk over in a snow-white and green chiffon skirt. Her appearance immediately caused a commotion in the hotel. In addition to the guest, the hotel staff also started taking photos of her. "I'll settle the score with you on another day," Richard said as he glared at Aaron. His expression instantly changed into a handsome smile as he walked toward Jennifer. Just as the guest was about to ask Jennifer for her number, Richard walked over and blocked him. "Excuse me, please don't disturb my company's artiste." As if he were her knight, he immediately started guarding her. "Why did you come over by yourself? Where's your assistant?" "I thought that since it's Mr. Bennett who's getting married, the security measures would be very good. So I didn't ask her to come. Plus, aren't you here too?" Jennifer smiled as she looked at him and said, "Your suit is very nice." Her compliments made Richard's face grow hot. He replied, "Your dress looks good too. Today I will be your knight. Let's go. I'll take you to April and the rest." Richard escorted her as they walked forward. Jennifer gave a gift and went to congratulate Aaron before preparing to go upstairs with Richard to see the bride. They had only walked a few steps when Richard was dragged back by his clothes by Aaron. His eyebrows were raised as he stared at Richard and asked, "Aren't you my groomsman who accompanies me to receive guests over here?" "Jennifer is a guest too," Richard lightly said. "I'm not asking you to receive only her." Aaron gritted his teeth. If Richard wanted to flirt, he could do it later. When Jennifer saw the situation, she said, "I can go upstairs by myself. Anyways, I'll come down once I've given my greetings." "All right, I'll sit with you later. Save me a place," Richard reluctantly said as he returned to Aaron's side. He finally looked at Aaron and said, "I finally managed to meet her. Can you not disturb me?" "I finally managed to get married. Can you chase women later?" Aaron replied with a poker face. Richard thought, "You win this round." Jeffrey stood at the door for 10 minutes. Kiera came with Ella, who happily ran over when she saw him. "Jeffrey, you look so handsome today." He could see her boy-crazy gaze and was troubled. "Why did you come?" "I happened to have an off day today, so I came with my sister to attend the wedding," Ella said with a smile. "Plus, I haven't seen you for quite a few days." Kira suddenly walked over from the back and grabbed Ella with one hand. She apologetically said, "Excuse us, this brat came here to disturb you again." Jeffrey frowned and stayed silent. Kira brought Ella to congratulate Aaron. As the two of them left, Aaron said to Richard, "Kira's sister is going to suffer." Richard had known Kira for a long time. He thought for a moment, then said, "Ella's pretty adorable." Jeffrey glanced at him and said, "Maybe you should be with her." Richard didn't know how to respond. He considered himself unlucky as he had to greet the guests with these two men. "They are so alike, and now they've become family," he thought. Soon, Jeremy arrived. He brought two gifts. "Jenica isn't here. She asked me to bring you a gift." Aaron stayed silent for a few seconds, then nodded. "Where's Sylvia?" Jeremy asked. "Upstairs." Jeremy nodded, then went upstairs for Sylvia. The girls were taking pictures. As Jennifer came in, they surrounded her and took even more photos. Jeremy walked over. Immediately, Sylvia saw him and frowned. "Congratulations." Jeremy nodded at April, then turned to Sylvia. The look in his eyes changed slightly as he said, "Sylvia, you look perfect in that dress." He felt a little bitter. If they hadn't canceled their wedding, they'd be married long ago. She wouldn't have to become someone else's bridesmaid. "Thank you," Sylvia replied with a confused feeling. "Jack," Jeremy said. "He'll get out," Sylvia interrupted him. Jeremy nodded. "The sergeant had told me about that. I think he'll get out in a couple of days." "Really?" Sylvia's eyes glowed. Jeremy was a little uncomfortable. She rarely cared about other guys. "The sergeant told me a lot. Come out, and I'll tell you." Sylvia followed him out of the room. After all, Jack's case was confidential. It was reasonable for Jeremy to be careful about who heard it. The two of them walked out of the room together. In the hallway, Jeremy stopped, looked at Sylvia with a confused expression, and asked, "Sylvia, I heard from Axel that you two shared a room in Paris." "Weren't you telling me about Jack?" Sylvia spent a few seconds looking at him with a frown, then said, "You lied to me." "Do you care so much about him?" Jeremy wasn't happy. "Sylvia, I never change my heart. You?" "Jack is my friend. I think he is a nice person, and I might fall in love with him." Sylvia felt annoyed. "Maybe you never changed your heart, but we have broken up. I clearly remember why we broke up. Don't tell me that you've forgotten about it." "The project that Jack is working on is very dangerous. I think you should stay away from him. I'm saying this for your own good," Jeremy said word by word. "He is going to get bailed out, but he can't come back for a few months, at least. Sylvia, whatever is happening between the two of you, you should end it. I say these words to you not only because you're my ex-girlfriend, but also because I want you to be safe. After all, we grew up together." "I get it." Sylvia lowered her head, turned, and walked back into the room. Jeremy looked at her walking away, thinking about what Axel said. He said that Jack liked to spend time with Sylvia. He brought her everywhere he went, and they pretended to be boyfriend and girlfriend. They even held hands and shared a room. Jeremy felt like he was being tortured, even though he knew nothing about what happened between Sylvia and Jack. He decided he wanted to win her back. The wedding officially started. Kenneth held April's hands and slowly walked onto the stage. Aaron stood on the other end of the stage. Seeing April walk to him, he felt happier than ever. Kenneth placed April's dainty hand into Aaron's hands. "Thank you, Dad." Aaron held on to April's hands. He turned around and began to leave. The officiant hurriedly said, "Wait, Mr. Bennett. I'm not done reciting the script. Please take it slower. Anyway, you already have the bride, so she won't run away." The audience burst out laughing. April blushed. Aaron was unhappy. He thought, where in the world is this officiant from? So much blabbering. For wedding ceremonies, couldn't the crucial moments come sooner? The officiant nagged for a long time before finally reaching the part where the rings were exchanged. After Aaron slid the ring onto April's finger, he immediately pulled her into his embrace and bent down to kiss her lips, roughly savoring her sweetness. April was just getting married, and she was already being kissed as if she was going through a storm. Originally, the kiss ceremony was only 1 minute. Aaron forcefully dragged it on for 3 minutes. When it was over, his handsome face stared lovingly at April as he said, "My wife, I love you." April's heart started thumping. The last part of the ceremony was tossing the bouquet. April had discussed it earlier with her 2 bridesmaids. Winnie was the youngest. Since she didn't have plans to marry just yet, the bouquet would be given to Sylvia. Sylvia agreed. At the time when the bouquet would be tossed, she would stand at the place closest to the stage. When April threw the bouquet toward her, just as it was about to land in Sylvia's hands, someone suddenly came out from behind and jumped up to snatch it. However, no one got the bouquet. Someone slapped it away. It landed on the lap of Winnie, who was sitting at the banquet table resting. She picked up the bouquet, a little stunned. Sylvia was also stunned. She wanted to weep, but was too frustrated for tears to come out. She thought, why am I so unlucky? Forget that I'm already getting older, but I couldn't even catch the bouquet coming straight at me? It looked like she would be getting married even later than Winnie. April was also taken aback for a moment and helplessly looked at Sylvia. After the ceremony had ended, April went to a room at the desk to change into a cocktail dress. With an exceedingly pretty face, she told Aaron, "The ceremony that we rehearsed yesterday is completely different. You messed up the rhythm." Aaron was in a good mood. He hugged her while he carelessly commented, "When I saw you standing in front of me looking so pretty, I forgot everything." "All right, you win this round," April said. As she spoke, Sylvia said, "April, you're the greatest. You've trained even my sharp-tongued brother to be able to say sweet words." April pursed her lips and smiled. If he is still as mean to me as before, even after getting married, he will think twice. Aaron wanted to say that everything he had said was the truth, but he was afraid that his new wife would be unhappy. He forced himself to stay quiet. Sylvia watched on enviously and sighed. April patted her shoulder and said, "It's all right, it's just a bouquet." Winnie also felt guilty. "Why don't I give you these flowers?" Sylvia shook her head. "You didn't even try to catch the flowers, and it still landed in your lap. That means you were destined to have it. Hold on to it well. It looks like your fated partner will be coming soon." Winnie smiled bitterly and said, "That's impossible right now. I don't have the mood to date at all." "This kind of thing is not up to you," Sylvia said. "When destiny arrives, you can't block it even if you want it. It looks like I have a long time before getting married. I'll wait." "Don't overthink this," Winnie said. "I've decided to get married only when I'm 30. It'll definitely be later than you." "Don't be too sure," Sylvia said with a smile. "I have a friend who said the same thing. In the end, she got married right after graduation. She said that when you meet that person that you really want to marry, all principles and plans are broken." Winnie didn't take her words seriously. She had wasted years on her relationship. She hadn't gotten over it yet, and she still didn't believe in love anymore. Aaron and April changed into formal wear and then started to make toast with all the guests, table by table. Since April was pregnant, she was drinking water. A lot of Aaron's army friends had come to the wedding. They were all good at drinking and even dragged over Aaron, pouring liquor into his mouth, glass by glass. They only released him when he was drunk. April couldn't stop them. As Aaron's groomsman and best friend, Richard sat by Jennifer's side, refusing to drink any alcohol. He was soon dragged off his seat by a group of friends and got very drunk. After the meal, Jennifer went up to the bathroom to touch up her makeup, preparing to leave. Richard glanced at her bag, then abruptly stood up, stuttering, I've made up my mind today. I will make her my girlfriend. April gave a start. Calm down. Before she finished, Richard slapped the table, stood up, then shambled toward the bathroom. April attempted to stop him, but Aaron didn't let her. Let him go while he's drunk, or he'll never have the guts to tell her about his feelings. He's such a coward. All he can do is stay at home looking at dirty magazines. April didn't know what to say. In fact, she was worried that Richard might follow Jennifer into the ladies' room. In the ladies' room, Jennifer took out her foundation powder and carefully observed herself in the mirror to see which part of her makeup needed to be fixed. It wasn't easy being a star. People might take pictures of her at any moment. She always needed to be gorgeous. Kira came over to wash her hands. Seeing Jennifer, she smiled and said, Miss Jennifer, you are prettier than your photos. Jennifer knew her as the legal advisor of Xingting. Currently, she was in charge of many cases that were related to Neon Corporation. Jennifer had met Kira a few times there. Miss Kira, you're pretty too, she said. I've heard about the case of April's father. You were amazing. Thank you. Can I have your signature? My mom is a fan of yours. Kira took out her notebook. Once Jennifer signed her name, the door was opened violently. Richard bumped into the wall along with the door. A few other ladies who were washing their hands were frightened and hurriedly ran out. Jennifer frowned slightly. Kira put the notebook back into her purse, then walked to Richard and reminded him kindly, you're in the wrong place. This is the ladies' room. I am where I need to be. I want to be here. Richard leaned against the door. His legs were trembling. Hearing Kira's voice, he suddenly grasped her hands and said, Jennifer, I'm here for you. Kira was surprised. She glanced at Jennifer, then gave a faint smile and said, Don't say anything. Richard raised his head. The world in his eyes was spinning, and the people he saw were blurred. His brain was even burning. Jennifer, he said, I am your boss. Now, I order you to be my girlfriend. I know you love money. It's okay. I'll make a lot of money. You want the Oscar award? Fine. I'll invest in films for you. You see, you can't always focus on your work. You need to fall in love or your beauty will be wasted. Kira didn't know how to react. Richard, she said. I haven't finished yet. Richard interrupted her and said, I think we are a good match for each other. You like food, so do I. You're pretty, I'm handsome, I have dimples. I'll always smile for you. When he finished, he squeezed out a smile. 2 dimples came into view. Looking at his silly face, Kira laughed until her tummy hurt. She turned around to look at Jennifer, whose face was flushed red, and said, Miss Jennifer, that person confessed to you. You shouldn't just be standing there. Jennifer coughed awkwardly and walked over. You're mistaken. I'm Kira. Kira good-naturedly said. Your Jennifer is over there. She placed Richard's hands into Jennifer's hands. Richard was taken aback for a moment. He couldn't see the person clearly. He could only bend down to feel her hands. Yes, this does feel like Jennifer's hands, he said. They're not so coarse. She should have placed his hand into the toilet bowl. I'm leaving. You guys can continue, Kira said as she closed the door for the 2 of them. As she was walking out, she thought for a while and placed a maintenance work in progress sign outside the toilet door in case anyone disturbed them.
Jennifer, I'm sorry. I'm drunk. Very drunk.
Richard raised his head. His lips parted as he laughed in a silly manner.
You see? Can we give us a shot? When I saw you for the first time, I thought you were very special. In the past 6 months, I went to Lukesville frequently because I wanted to see you, but you were too busy. I always missed you. I heard that your family situation is not very good, so you work very hard to earn money. My heart aches for you, but I still want us to date.
Jennifer's heart was a little touched. She looked down toward him. She could still vividly remember the first time she saw him. Back then, he was sitting next to April. She mistakenly thought he was her boyfriend. After, Aaron came along. Although he was also very handsome, between the two, she still liked Richard's clean vibe better. When he smiled, his lips were red against his white teeth. He even had dimples. He looked approachable. Although they didn't spend much time together, she had heard that he was a very self-regulated man who didn't partake in gambling or prostitutes. That was already very rare in this circle. Perhaps she had reached a time when she should date. If she had to try dating, Richard was not a bad candidate. All right. She lowered her head and pressed her lips lightly to Richard's mouth. She had shot many kissing scenes, but this was her first kiss with her own boyfriend. At 3 p.m., Aaron was sent back to the villa by Jeffrey. He was already so drunk that he couldn't walk straight. April had never seen him that drunk. When he woke up, it was 3 a.m. Aaron opened his eyes and glanced at the woman in his arms underneath the red duvet. It took him a long time to sober up and look at the time. It was already the next day. He was speechless. He wanted to be sweet and tender on his wedding night, but he had slept like a log. He thought, that bunch of good-for-nothing friends. His wife was sleeping and he couldn't wake her up. When she finally awoke, she found Aaron lovingly cupping her face. She looked at Aaron with both love and frustration. My wife, good morning. You're awake. Aaron smiled widely at her. This was the first day of their marriage. April decided to let him do what he wanted. At 8 a.m., Richard came over. He was hungover and wanted to mooch off some breakfast. Just how much did I drink yesterday? I was so drunk that I only woke up at 6 this morning. Aaron ate a mouthful of hot porridge and said, Congratulations. I drank so much that my stomach hurts. Yet you congratulate me? Richard unabashedly took a piece of pastry and ate it. Aaron made eye contact with April, then dropped his spoon. He carefully looked at Richard for a few seconds and said, Stop pretending. You should be happy now. Richard was very confused. Why should I be happy? April reminded him with a faint smile, saying, Did you forget that you were drunk and broke into the ladies' room to ask Jennifer to be your girlfriend yesterday? Richard was so shocked that he had to make an effort to swallow the food in his mouth. I really went into the ladies' room? April nodded and said, Yes, you scared the girls in the ladies' room. You asked Kiera to be your girlfriend because you thought she was Jennifer. Jennifer was there, so Kiera put your hand into Jennifer's hand. And then kindly closed the door for you two before leaving. Richard put both hands on his forehead in shock and said, Stop lying to me. How could I possibly do something like that? Aaron glanced at him and said, Isn't that good? You always flirted with her but never made a step forward. You'd never get her. Richard put his forehead on the table. The good impression that he left with Jennifer was ruined. So, did I succeed or not? How did I end up at home? Aaron shrugged and laughed, saying, Jennifer helped you out of the ladies' room and then asked Jeremy to send her boyfriend back home. Richard immediately raised his head and looked at him with disbelief. It was like the lottery company called him and told him that he had won $100 million. Congratulations. April smilingly raised her cup of milk. Are you guys fooling me? Richard still didn't believe them. Believe it or not,
said Aaron blandly. Anyway, don't hide in your room and watch dirty films or magazines anymore. Shut up! You're not allowed to tell anyone about that. Richard hurriedly stood up, then called Jennifer. Mr. Richard, Jennifer's sleepy voice was heard from the phone. Why did you call me so early? Hearing her call him Mr. Richard, Richard was a little disappointed. I heard that I have a girlfriend now. Is that true? Jennifer stayed silent. Richard coughed slightly, then continued. I heard that I asked you to be my girlfriend yesterday, and you said yes. Yes, you did, but I didn't say yes. You are still a single man. Jennifer then ended the call. Richard stared at the phone in a daze until April reminded him, saying, Just go to the hotel and apologize to her. You asked her to be your girlfriend, and you forgot about it. I wouldn't even say a word to you if I was her. Richard finally came back to his senses. He sprung up from the chair and rushed out without saying a word. Aaron sighed. I can't believe he got himself a girlfriend. After all, he has a terrible EQ. Lucky man, said Aaron. April rolled her eyes. In her opinion, Richard's EQ was much higher than Aaron's. That was why Richard was in charge of all the social connections. And Richard wasn't as shameless as Aaron. That afternoon, Richard posted a photo of two hands holding on. It's so nice. I'm now a man who has a girlfriend. Sylvia replied, Who? What did I miss? Aaron smirked. Congratulations, finally. You don't need to hide in your room and read bikini magazines anymore. Jennifer. Bikini magazines? Richard replied to Aaron, Do not defame me. Aaron. When will you come here to pick up that pile of limited edition trash that you gave me? I hate them. April read his comments, then looked at Aaron and said, Do you have to do that to your friend? Aaron crossed his legs and said, For some reason, I always wanted to watch him suffer with love. April didn't know what to say. Maybe you guys should be together, April thought. Jennifer and I will quit the game. In the afternoon, Winnie finished classes and was about to stand up when George, the student council president from the same course, walked over. Winnie, it's my birthday in 2 days, he said. Why don't you come with us for dinner and karaoke? I'm already in my 4th year. Since you're normally so busy, there aren't many opportunities to meet. 2 days? Winnie considered it. She and George had been through 4 years of university together. As the president of the student council, he had looked after her. Although she was famous now, she couldn't reject all invitations. I'm attending an event in the afternoon that day, she replied. It might already be 6 or 7 p.m. by the time I return to Rosewood City. I probably won't be able to make it to dinner. All right, let's just sing karaoke together, George said with a smile. Just show up. I'll wait for you to cut the cake. Don't worry, it's all people you know from the course. Winnie nodded. She walked out of the classroom. Her car was already waiting for her. After she got into the car, her assistant, Bob, passed the program schedule for her and said, This is the lineup for tomorrow night's gala. Take a look. You are number 17. It will probably be around 10 p.m. when you're up. Winnie saw that there were 20 singers performing. The first to perform was a well-established diva-level singer from Hong Kong. The one ending the show was Ben. When she saw the words Ben, her heart instantly felt like it was being squeezed by someone. It can't be helped, Bob said. Although Ben had that negative scandal about throwing his weight around, his fans are too obsessed. His popularity is still very high. It also happens to be pop music this time. So the organizers let him end the show. That way the audience has something to look forward to. This is in case the viewership at night is affected. Winnie stayed silent. She understood. Since Ben had become famous, every time he participated in an event, he was always either the opener or closer. You're not bad either, Bob said with a smile.
Your performance time is closer to the back. You're very popular now. Among those performing tomorrow, you're probably in the top 10. Top 10? A wave of bitterness rose as she asked, Say, how much difference is there between me and Ben? Bob was stunned for a moment before truthfully saying, Winnie, you're treading the path of a singer with real ability. Although Ben sings, he is packaged by big music labels. He cannot be counted as a singer that purely depends on ability. He can only be called an idol singer. There are more die-hard female fans now, so in that aspect, male celebrities have the upper hand. He is very popular worldwide. I understand. Winnie lowered her head. Don't think too much, Bob said. You're an ability-based singer, so what's there to compare with an idol singer like him? I heard that Ben is even preparing to take up acting. I'm guessing he will probably be developing in other areas in the future. You're different. Our company wants to develop you into a real diva-level singer. Winnie looked out of the window. She recalled that Ben had said he wanted to be a singer. Now he was not only a singer, he was even planned to become an actor. What happened to his dream of being a pure singer? Winnie, could it be that you don't like the company's plans? Bob saw that she didn't seem to be happy. No, Winnie shook her head. I prefer to only sing. Singing is good. Compared to acting, the circle is at least not as complicated. But singing doesn't earn nearly as much as acting, Bob said. Perhaps that's why Ben is going to act. Acting in one show would earn him more than what he would by singing for 2 years. Yes, money. Winnie shook her head with disappointment. Perhaps money was the real reason why a person would change. After 2 hours on the plane, they arrived in the city. The next morning at 9 a.m., the television station's car came to pick up Winnie. They headed to the gymnasium for rehearsal. Many artists had already arrived. Some of them were singers, and some were actors and actresses, who were good at singing too. Winnie browsed the list of names. Many famous artists hadn't arrived yet. The artists who were currently there weren't that well known. She was the third one to rehearse. Bob said to her, You are popular now, but you're new in this circle. Let's be polite and cooperative. Let's be good team players and do what the crew wants. Hopefully, we'll earn a good reputation through this show. Those big stars haven't arrived because they are too busy and also because they want people to wait. Winnie understood. She didn't compare herself to the big stars just because she was getting popular. She was different and had a good mindset. She never felt that being popular would give her the right to act like a diva. Winnie was born with a beautiful voice, and she was young. She sang 3 songs in a row with no problem. She then had a short conversation with the band about the rhythm, but other than that, there was no problem at all. Soon she returned to the hotel to rest. That afternoon, Winnie came back at 3 p.m. By then, many big stars had arrived. Jennifer was sitting among a group of people, reading lyrics while drinking coffee. Winnie walked over to her and greeted her with a smile. Miss Jennifer, nice to see you again. Jennifer raised her head and responded with, Good to see you too. I heard from the director what you've done with the rehearsal. You, as a professional singer, are seriously amazing. I've rehearsed 5 times and I'm always singing off key. My company has made a very wrong decision. I'm already busy as an actress, yet they insist on making me sing. Winnie gave her a suggestion. You can record the song in the recording studio, then get it adjusted. During the show, you only need to pretend to be singing. Many actors and actresses do that. Are you saying that I should fake it? Jennifer frowned and shook her head. No, I have to sing for real. I need to let them know how awful I am at singing so they'll never ask me to sing again. Winnie didn't know what to say. As she fell into silence, Jennifer laughed. I was kidding. Jennifer, it's your turn, her manager called out. I'll talk to you later. Jennifer quickly ran onto the stage. As a professional singer, Winnie listened to Jennifer singing and then had only one thought left in her mind. That is seriously off key. Bob sighed. Fortunately for a big star like Jennifer, her fans won't care how terrible she is at singing. Seeing her will make many people crazy as it is. Suddenly, a staff member's voice was heard from the outside. Ben is here! Winnie's heart twitched slightly. She turned back and saw Ben in white casual pants, a black t-shirt, and a white baseball hat. His hair was dyed brown. Glowing, he walked over, followed by 2 assistants. His assistant had a short conversation with the chief director. Afterward, the director said, "Who's next? Terrence? You can come here later. Let Ben rehearse first." Terrence wasn't happy. "Director, I've been waiting long." "Just let him do it first. Ben must have dinner with the MC later," said the director with an unfriendly tone. "Besides, why didn't you come here this morning? Look at Winnie. She's finished rehearsal this morning." Terrence sneered with anger, then turned and walked away. Winnie frowned slightly. Ben looked around and saw her, but his eyes turned away. Soon, many other artists walked over to him and greeted him. They seemed to know each other. "Do you want to go up and say hello?" Bob asked. Winnie shook her head. "What for? Will he be able to help me gain popularity or earn more money? Star Music has given me the sufficient resources to go further." Bob gave her a thumbs up. "Winnie, you were so cool." Winnie grimaced. She just didn't want to face Ben. After rehearsing for about 30 minutes, Ben headed out for dinner with the main MC of the show. The other artists were all having the deluxe bento boxes prepared for them by the broadcasting company. Winnie was sitting at the same table as Jennifer. "Miss Jennifer, why didn't you go out and have lunch with them?" Winnie asked. "I want to read the script." Jennifer retrieved a thick manuscript from her bag. "Besides, I don't enjoy superficial small talk over meals as much as they do." Winnie really admired her. It was no wonder people called Jennifer a workaholic. She really lived up to her reputation. At 8 p.m., the grand ceremony began. It was chaos backstage. Jennifer was 4th in the lineup. After she sang her song, she promptly left the event. Winnie was resting in a corner when she heard a few singers ramble on beside her. "Why isn't Ben here yet?" Terrence asked. "He's probably here," said another singer with Wisteria Vaz. "He might just be chatting with corporate upstairs." "Isn't he just an idol? Why do they pay so much attention to him anyway?" Someone enviously asked. "I think they're more interested in his supporters," Terrence said with a chuckle. Winnie was stunned. "I heard he managed to land his CEO's daughter," Terrence softly whispered. "Impossible!" Henry was shocked. "Are you only saying that because you're still upset that Ben stole your rehearsal slot?" "Why would I lie to you for?" Terrence asked. "I was in Korea for training when I met a junior from his company. He was extremely upset when he was talking about him because he felt that it was unfair that the company had channeled all their resources to Ben. Anyway, many people in the company noticed that the CEO's daughter would go look for him whenever he was back in Korea. They looked really close. Many people in the company know about this." "No wonder he rose to his fame so quickly over these years," another singer remarked. "He even has his own studio here in America." "All right, stop gossiping about him, since he has a powerful supporter," Henry said. "We're still too insignificant. Someone could easily sabotage our careers." None of them said a word after that. Winnie's hands were trembling when she took another sip of her coffee. She couldn't even taste the bitterness of the drink anymore. She believed what everyone had said. April had mentioned that young Missy before. Her point was proven. She used to think that it might just have been a misunderstanding. Now she was just a fool who was played. She sat there in a daze for a while before Bob came up to her when it was nearing her turn. She stood up and sang 3 songs. When she got off the stage to leave, she saw Ben sitting at the dressing table. They made eye contact through the reflection in the mirror. Winnie took her phone from her assistant. There was a message from a familiar but foreign number. "Wait for me. We haven't seen each other in 315 days. Wait for me in front of the bathroom." She put her phone down and left the station with her assistant. Late that night, she lowered the car window. The wind tousled her long black hair. "Winnie, are you feeling unwell?" asked Bob. "Even though you didn't sing off key, you could do better." I'm just in a bad mood," said Winnie with a deep voice. Bob didn't ask anything further. Every artist had their own secrets. Back at the hotel, Winnie spent the whole night sitting beside the French window. Ben called her, but she didn't answer her phone. The next day, the dark circles under Winnie's eyes gave Bob a shock. "Didn't you sleep last night?" "I couldn't sleep well in a strange place." Winnie asked the makeup artist to give her thick under-eye makeup. That afternoon, after attending the event, she flew back to Rosewood City. George called to invite her somewhere, but she didn't want to go. However, her schedule was known by a lot of people and she had promised to go, so she asked the chauffeur to drive her there. The place that George booked was called Club Number 5, a fancy place in the city. "Bob, don't wait up for me. Just take a taxi home. Some of my classmates are here, so I can ask them to drive me," Winnie said when getting out of the car. "All right, be careful. Call me immediately if you need any help. You didn't sleep well last night, so go home early," Bob said to her, then left. Winnie went to George's VIP room. George's family was rich, so he booked a luxurious room. Winnie pushed the door open and walked in. About 20 people were in the room, chatting and laughing. Winnie wasn't surprised. George was the student president and very social. He had a lot of friends. However, Winnie started feeling uncomfortable when she saw the outstanding Jeffrey in the crowd. Ever since April's wedding, she had been trying her best to stay away from that little devil. "Winnie, you're here!" Once she showed up, many of her classmates greeted her. Before, she was not popular among her peers, especially when she had an issue with Mary Ann. She was even isolated once. However, now that she was a popular singer, those people tried to get closer to her. Winnie was clearly aware who were fake friends and who were real. "Winnie, I heard that you attended the grand ceremony yesterday. You're amazing. Many stars were there, including Ben and Jennifer," said one of her classmates. It was okay. Most of the stars sang a few songs and then left. Winnie quickly answered a few questions to satisfy their curiosity. George came over when he handed him a gift. "Happy birthday! I'm surprised you invited some younger schoolmates." "Thank you! I thought this would be a small party at first, but these young boys and girls are just passionate," said George apologetically. "It's all right, though. We'll be working in the same circle in the future. You see, that boy is Jeffrey. He's still a student, but in fact, he's already famous throughout the world as a director." "You know him?" Winnie asked. George laughed. "I'm the president of the student union. I know everyone. Jeffrey and I played video games together a few times. We were well-matched adversaries and even formed a team once. That's how we became friends. All right, don't just stand here. You're a famous singer now, so you have to sing a few songs for us." Many people were surrounding the karaoke machine, choosing the songs they would be singing later. George pushed Winnie to that area. One of Winnie's classmates saw her and instantly made space. "Winnie, come on, come here!" Winnie was pushed toward the machine. Jeffrey was sitting right beside it, holding a bottle of beer. Winnie sat down, huddling together with him. He turned and looked at her, expressionless. Winnie hesitated about greeting him. Before she could open her mouth, he had already turned away. She gritted her teeth. She was too soft-hearted. "Winnie, why don't you pick your songs and allow us to enjoy the full concert experience?" someone suggested. Winnie didn't mind. Singing was just singing to her. She casually picked 2 songs. Her classmates queued her songs up in front. It was her turn to sing soon. She sang "Gone with the Wind," the song she wrote to conclude her relationship with Ben. As she sang her own lyrics, her mind drifted to all the happy memories that she shared with him, as well as what she heard at the television station the night before. Her Ben, her down-to-earth boy. When did he become like this? When did he start seeing his boss's daughter and lie to her so cruelly? It was no wonder he was so cautious whenever he called her. Was he afraid the young Missy might find out about her? She would rather he broke up with her sooner than lie to her. Jeffrey glanced over at her. He recalled how Austen complimented her singing, but he didn't believe him then. Now that he had heard her voice for himself, he had to agree with Austen. She sang well, and the emotions ran thick. Austen mentioned that this song was related to her past relationship. Was she singing so sorrowfully because she was reminded of her ex-boyfriend? The two of them were sitting close to each other. He could make out tears in her eyes. It was as if the sadness was seeping out from there. He took a swig of beer. Ella ran over with the beer and said, "Senior, let me toast to you." "Why are you everywhere I go?" Jeffrey asked as he rubbed his head. Ella was grinning. "It proves that we have affinity." When he had finished the song, she received a loud round of applause from her classmates. She quickly recollected herself and shook her head. "I'm not singing anymore. This was supposed to be a fun party. I made it so sorrowful." "Haha, that's fine. Come on, let's play some games." George pushed her toward a group of girls. Someone suggested playing dice where Jeffrey was sitting. After one round of dice, they started playing a game of werewolf. Although Winnie was sitting with the girls, they were having a good time on their own. Everyone had loosened up a little after having a couple of drinks. Winnie rarely drank, but she was in a bad mood that day. She was drinking regardless of whether she lost the games. Soon, most of the girls were flushed from the alcohol. After 11 p.m., George cut the cake and ordered a few more cartons of beer when the party didn't seem like it was about to end. She told everyone to drink their heart's content since she had booked a room upstairs. Winnie had to frequently use the bathroom. The last time she went, she accidentally walked out of the private cabin. She walked around for a long time. She had to ask around for directions before she finally found the bathroom. When she was done, she bumped into a man on her way out. She could smell the scent of fresh laundry on him. It was pleasant. Winnie looked up to see who she had bumped into, but she couldn't make out who it was. She could only tell that he was tall and handsome. She suddenly felt a wave of emotions as tears welled up in her eyes. The man had reminded her of Ben. Winnie thought, "Why did he have to change? How could he sleep with another woman behind my back? What about me?" She was guarding her body and heart like a fool. She would never be so foolish again. She wanted to indulge in the spontaneity of the night. "Well, handsome, do you want to spend the night together?" Winnie asked as she collapsed in the man's arms and wrapped her arms around his waist. Jeffrey didn't remember how many bottles of beers he had drunk. He felt that he couldn't drink anymore and wanted to go upstairs to his room to rest. Earlier, while he was drinking, he booked himself a room. He couldn't go home drunk. As he came out of the VIP room, he didn't remember if he was supposed to take the elevator or the stairs. He stumbled forward. Suddenly, a girl bumped into his arms. She was soft and nicely scented. Before he could react, her hands went into his shirt. He had drunk a lot. His young and energetic body was burning. At that moment, he felt as if he was on fire. Feeling muddled, he lowered his head. Before he could see her face clearly, she pressed her lips against his. The girl's moist tongue invaded his mouth bit by bit, entangled with his, unskillfully. He tasted strawberry cream. She held him tight and he lost his mind. Instantly, he became the aggressive one. He put his arms around her and pressed her against the wall. He then pressed his lips against hers until they both trembled. A simple kiss could no longer satisfy them. Jeffrey brought her upstairs. He fumbled to his room, then started looking for the key card in his trousers pocket. However, he was impatient and couldn't find it. The girl reached a hand into his pocket. As her soft little hand touched his sensitive body, he felt as if his brain exploded. He carried her into his room once the door was open, pressed her against the door, then kissed her, almost violently. Her dress was ripped off. The girl looked slim but not tall. Her body, which was hiding under her dress, made his blood boil. Winnie ripped open his shirt with both hands. The buttons fell to the carpet. She raised her head and saw his bare upper body. Under the light, the delicate shape of his body gave a sexual charm. She looked down and saw his V-line abs. She put her hand on his muscles. Jeffrey pressed her onto the bed and kissed her again. His breathing was heavy. Everything happened so fast. There was a piercing pain, then Winnie held him and cried out loud. However, the pain faded quickly, replaced by pleasure. After all, they were both drunk. The warm breeze blew in through the window. For the two in the room, the night had just started. Both of them were immersed in the night. In the morning, Winnie was woken up by her cell phone. She reached out her hand to fumble for her phone, but instead, she seemed to touch a face. Her heart missed a beat, as she had a very bad feeling. She raised her head and saw a perfectly handsome face, beautifully shaped lips, and a straight nose. That face looked so familiar. Normally, she would clench her teeth when she saw that face. Now, seeing him lying beside her, she wanted to die. She could not believe that Jeffrey was lying right by her side. She moved her body slightly. Her limbs were sore, as if a truck ran over her. A burning pain came from between her legs. She lowered her head to check her own body and found kiss marks everywhere, with some bruises. How intense was it last night? Some blurred memories flashed across her mind and made her want to crawl into a hole and hide. Why on earth did she do that last night? Was she crazy? Her phone was buzzing the whole time. She didn't want to wake Jeffrey up, so she hurriedly put on clothes and went to pick up her phone, which was dropped by the door. Seeing April's name on the screen, she wanted to bash herself with the phone. She wondered how April would feel if she knew that her best friend had taken her younger brother's virginity. She unwittingly rejected the call. The smell of lust lingered in the room. Winnie was desperate. Although she had been fairly intoxicated the night before, she could roughly remember initiating the intimacy. She wondered if Jeffrey would reprimand her when he woke up. After all, he hated her so much. She thought it was best to leave before he woke up. Once she made up her mind, she began to get dressed. She quickly scanned the room for anything of hers one last time before she made her exit. The moment she stepped out of the room, Ella appeared around the corner of the corridor. She was rubbing her eyes. She had drank too much the night before as well. All she saw was a figure suspiciously dashing out of the room. She thought it could be a thief and walked toward the room that the figure emerged from. The door was not shut tight. It was slightly ajar. She gently pushed the door open. There was a golden button on the carpet. Ella's heart jumped. She remembered where she had seen that button before. It was the same one on the shirt that Jeffrey had worn the night before. She had seen the shirt on a magazine before. It was a limited edition shirt. She tiptoed into the room. Jeffrey was still sleeping on the bed. His eyes were shut. He fidgeted under the blankets. He was still deep asleep. Ella looked at him. Her mind was buzzing. She immediately knew what had happened from the smell of the room. Her crush had slept with another woman. Why didn't she know about it last night? Who was the woman? Ella tried hard to place the figure she had seen in the corridor, but to no avail. It was too dark in the lounge. She couldn't make out what everyone was wearing. It might have just been a stranger. They had all been so drunk, including Jeffrey. The woman left quickly. Ella deduced that she had tried to slip away before Jeffrey woke up. She probably didn't want anyone to find out about it. In a moment of rashness, Ella had an idea. She quickly undressed and laid naked beside Jeffrey. She wrapped her arms around him from behind. Jeffrey opened his eyes slowly when he sensed someone was touching him. He turned to see Ella lying beside him. His eyes widened in shock. He bolted upright. His face was pale. "How can it be you?" he asked. Ella was nervous, but she lowered her head shyly and replied, "Why can't it be me? You were the one who brought me into the room last night. Senior, I didn't expect you to be this passionate in bed." Jeffrey felt as if he had just tasted something bad. He was in a foul mood. He didn't like Ella at all. He knew that for sure. How could he have slept with her? He tried hard to recall the chain of events from the night before, but he had trouble reconstructing the woman's face in his head. All he could remember was that the woman was straddling his hips, and he had wished to melt into her. How could he have these impulses for Ella? But there she was, lying next to him. "Senior, it was my first time last night. Ella tugged at sheets covering her bare body. Jeffrey pulled his hair in exasperation. He wished that he was dreaming. It had to be a bad dream. He quickly realized he wasn't dreaming, and it was real. As he didn't say anything, Ella became worried. She was afraid that he might remember something from last night. However, judging by his look, he was seriously drunk last night. He would believe her as long as she clung to her statement. Jeffrey dragged over his trousers, put them on, then silently walked into the bathroom. Hot water poured down on his head. He never felt so awful. He honestly didn't want to think back. He couldn't believe the woman who brought him that wonderful feeling last night was Ella. But if it wasn't her, why was she lying by his side? How did she come in? After spending half an hour under the shower, he came out of the bathroom with wet hair and with his trousers on. Water drops fell from his cheeks onto his chest. He looked so sexy that Ella almost had a nosebleed. She wished she was the girl that spent the night with him. She would be so happy. Jeffrey, I was happy last night. Ella looked at him. She gathered her courage and walked to hug him. Jeffrey made a step backward to dodge the hug. Ella looked at him. Suddenly, her eye sockets turned red. Do you not want to take responsibility for this? Jeffrey pressed his lips together. He felt so troubled. It's fine if you don't want to. Ella forced a smile and said, It's already great enough to be able to spend a night with you. At least I've given my first time to the man that I like the most in my life. The more she said, the colder Jeffrey's face became. It was his first time too. He had saved it for over 20 years, yet it was suddenly gone. He didn't even know how. He swore he would never touch alcohol again. Just like him, the girl lost her first time as well. Could he just put his trousers on and pretend nothing happened? Jeffrey, I'm leaving. Ella limped to the door. What's wrong with your legs? Jeffrey asked a question that he probably shouldn't ask. My legs are sore, probably because it was my first time. You wouldn't stop. I told you it was hurtful, but you ignored me, Ella said with tearful eyes. Jeffrey felt more and more annoyed. He seemed to remember that last night there was a girl holding him and complaining about the pain. He didn't stop when she heard she was in pain, but got even more excited. Those memory fragments from last night made his body burn again. All right, wait, I'll drive you home. Jeffrey put on his shirt. He found his car in the parking lot and they drove silently. On the way, Ella said to him, Jeffrey, you didn't use protection last night. Should I take some pills? Jeffrey paused, shivering a little. He hurriedly found the nearest pharmacy, bought some contraceptive pills and a bottle of water. Only after Ella swallowed the pills in front of him did he sigh with relief. He felt a little guilty, though. The contraceptive pills had some side effects. He drove her downstairs, then started talking reluctantly. Last night, I'm sorry. I was drunk. I like you, Jeffrey. Can you be my boyfriend? Ella interrupted him. You see, we had so much fun together last night. Perhaps if you give it a try, you'll find that we're actually a perfect match for each other. Jeffrey was stunned. He was never interested in sex. He really lost control last night. Perhaps he didn't dislike Ella as much as he thought he did. He stayed silent for a while, then responded with a cold and deep voice. I'll think about it. Ella looked surprised. All right, I'll wait for you, Senior. Jeffrey started the car after she headed up. Midway, he decided to call Morris to vent his frustrations. What? Do you think, will you sleep with a woman that you don't fancy when you're drunk? Jeffrey sounded cold. You slept with someone? Morris was excited. Have you finally lost your virginity? Scram. Jeffrey was impatient. Answer the question. I guess I would, Morris mumbled. Why do men always cheat when they're drunk? Sometimes your body is separated from your mind. Besides, you've never experienced it before. Your hormones might be running wild, making you extra thirsty for some action. Thirsty. Jeffrey's expression was grim. Recently, he had been a little horny, especially after what happened with Winnie in the elevator. It was as if a door had been opened and sometimes he would wake up with discomfort. Was that the reason why he lost control last night? I touched a woman last night. Jeffrey sounded down. It was her first time as well. She was our junior in school. Oh my God! Morris was shocked. I'm terrified of sleeping with virgins. You can't play around with them.
Usually you have to take responsibility for your actions. I wish you all the best, my friend.
Morris suggested.
If you don't like her, you can blame it on the alcohol. You can just tell her that you had too much to drink and you didn't know what you did and refuse to take responsibility. I'm not that kind of person.
Jeffrey frowned. He was taught that men should be loyal and should take responsibility if they slept with a woman. He was very careful. He wouldn't date a girl if he wasn't sure about his feelings for her.
Then date her. You might enjoy her company. If not, you can always break up with her. You can't force yourself to be happy.
Morris said. Jeffrey hung up. After Ella watched his car pull away, she immediately took a cab back to the hotel. She bribed the security guard to let her see the CCTV footage after telling him that she was looking for evidence of her boyfriend cheating. At around midnight last night, Jeffrey walked out of the elevator with a woman in his arms. Ella had wanted to identify the woman because she had a hunch that it was someone from their school. Her lie would be exposed once she met with Jeffrey in real life. However, she couldn't make out the woman in the video. The two of them were kissing the whole time. Jeffrey had his arms around her entire body and it was hard to identify her. She was jealous and upset watching the video. If she didn't see the clip for herself, she would have never believed that someone as cold as Jeffrey could be so passionate. The CCTV footage of the next morning was also not helpful. The woman emerged from the room with a cap that covered her face. Ella gave the security guard a sum of money to delete the clip before leaving the hotel. After returning to her apartment in a cab, Winnie took a hot shower. She suddenly remembered that they didn't use protection the night before. She wanted to cry. She reminded April countless times in the past to use protection, but she failed to do so herself. She had to get some pills later. But she was famous now. What if someone recognized her? She felt extremely troubled. If she asked her assistant to get the pills, she would certainly be scolded. She could order them online. Yes! She would order the pills online and have them delivered to her apartment. As she found her phone and prepared to place the order, Bob called her.
Winnie, are you ready?
We'll fly to Los Angeles to shoot the MV at noon. MV? Winnie gave a start. She had forgotten about that. The chauffeur and I will arrive in 10. Come down as soon as you can. Bob finished talking and then hung up. 10 minutes was not enough time for the pills to be delivered. Winnie had no choice but to quickly pack her bag and run downstairs. She ran into the cold-faced Jeffrey when she came out of the elevator. She automatically turned and ran back toward the elevator.
Stop!
Jeffrey called her. Winnie pretended not to hear him until Jeffrey caught up with her and pulled her bag.
Wait.
What's wrong? Winnie's heart was jumping out of her throat. She was so afraid that he might remember what happened last night. He was such a short-tempered person. If he knew, he might eat her alive. She also found that she was unable to look at his face now. Once she saw him, she started to relive the moment in the morning when she woke up in his arms. The thought would make her cheeks redden and heart race.
Why is your face so red?
Jeffrey looked down at her. It's hot. I'm sweating. Winnie touched her own face and stuttered. What can I, help you with?
Why did you run back when you saw me?
Jeffrey narrowed his eyes. Winnie was nervous. She couldn't tell if he remembered last night or not. You and I don't get along. You took away my reward money at April's wedding. Of course I'd run away from you. Jeffrey laughed.
You're such a narrow-minded girl. That was a week ago and you still remember it?
What he said made Winnie unhappy. She argued back. Didn't you hear that all girls are narrow-minded? Besides, you were generous to Sylvia. You were only stingy with me. You always bully me. She had anger and grievance in her eyes, like a little girl. Looking at her, Jeffrey suddenly found that she was rather adorable. She was 3 years older than him, yet she was like a little girl. For some reason, she looked especially pretty today. Her face looked like a perfectly nourished flower. Why did he start to bully her in the first place? He couldn't remember. He probably just wanted to see her mad. Currently, he had so much to worry about, so he decided not to think about that right now.
All right, I won't bully you. Let me ask you something. When did you leave last night? I remember that you were also drunk.
Winnie immediately felt awkward. He's not looking for the person who slept with him last night, is he? She wondered. I don't remember. I was so drunk last night. She lowered her head and stuttered to answer the question. My assistant picked me up. Was I still there when you left? Jeffrey asked. Was I with anyone? How am I supposed to know? Winnie shook her head. I'm not interested in you. Jeffrey suddenly didn't know what to say. He was unhappy too. All right, go. He pointed his chin coldly. Winnie made a few steps toward the exit. She was 100% sure he knew he had slept with someone. She felt a little guilty as she had ruined the virginity that he cherished. After she got into her car, she sat glumly in the back seat. Bob smiled. When did you rest last night? You don't look well. She was busy the whole night. Of course she didn't have good rest. Winnie sunk further into her seat. She couldn't tell her assistant about what exactly had happened. She decided to post a question on an anonymous forum. If you get drunk and you accidentally sleep with a man younger than you, what would you do? The context is that the guy hates you. Should you be honest or should you run? After she posted it, there were many replies. At Princess. It will depend if he's handsome or ugly. If he's handsome, I'm going to make him take responsibility. I would run if he's ugly. At I Have a Dream. Sis, you are so blessed. I want to sleep with a younger guy too. At Peachy. I think you should let him know the truth. Imagine waking up not knowing who you had slept with. That would be incredibly frustrating. If it was his first time, he would probably want to know the truth. At Momoda. What's there to consider? You should tell him the truth. Either he takes responsibility or not. At Legendary Couple. If he's good looking, tell him. You can be friends with benefits. There were all sorts of replies. Winnie was speechless reading everyone's input. She had finally witnessed how wild netizens could be. Most of the comments stated that their choice would be determined by how good-looking the man was. What was the point of good looks if he had such a lousy personality? She had no interest in Jeffrey. She had made a mistake when she was feeling vulnerable and utterly drunk last night. She sighed lightly. Should she go and clarify things when she was done with her errands? Would he make her take responsibility? Probably not. He might just berate her. He couldn't possibly punch her or might make her pay with her body. Winnie shuddered in fear. The more she thought about it, the more her legs shook. She sighed again. After reaching Los Angeles, she did a shoot for 2 consecutive days. The shoot was for her new music video, so she had no time to buy medication at all. On Monday evening, she went back to her apartment and dragged her suitcase out from the elevator. After fishing for her apartment keys, she looked at Jeffrey's door and hesitated about heading over and telling him the truth. After debating for a long time, his door suddenly opened and Ella walked out. Winnie was stunned. You... Senior, you stay here? Ella was even more shocked than she was. Winnie nodded her head. I used to stay with April, but she moved out after she got married. I'm staying here alone now, but I'll be moving out next year as well. Please don't tell anybody this. Ella nodded her head. Jeffrey probably wanted to stay near April when he decided to stay here. She envied Winnie, but thank goodness she was 3 years older than Jeffrey. Winnie was always away for events as well, so she wasn't too worried. Don't worry, I won't, she told Winnie. Winnie opened the door to her own apartment and looked over at Ella curiously. You two? Ella looked shy. We're dating each other. Winnie blinked a few times before she could react. Oh, she was a little stunned, as she had never heard about the two of them before. She recalled how Ella was circling Jeffrey during the party. Did she become a third party? Did she sleep with someone else's boyfriend? Winnie's heart was pounding. How long have you been together for? Ella thought that she didn't mind sharing since Winnie was April's good friend. Not long. Senior, do you know how to cook porridge? Jeffrey isn't feeling well today and he wants to have some porridge. I wasn't able to cook any for him, so I was just planning to go downstairs to buy some, but I still want to cook something. Oh, I do know how to. Winnie took some time to respond to her. Give me a moment to drop off my things. Thanks, Senior. Ella bowed to her gratefully. Back in her room, Winnie tried to make sense of the situation. She had slept with someone else's boyfriend, and she nearly went over to tell them the truth. She would be beaten up if she did. Suddenly, Winnie was overwhelmed with guilt and felt especially bad towards Ella. She decided to keep it a secret forever, just in case it affected their relationship. After all, she was 3 years older than Jeffrey. She could never get into a relationship with a younger man. Ella was much more suitable for him in terms of looks and age. Of course, Jeffrey liked her as well. After she concluded to herself, she decided not to dwell on what had happened that night. She changed into something more comfortable and walked over next door. She could tell that Ella really wasn't good at cooking. The kitchen was in a mess and pots were burnt. "Where's Jeffrey?" Winnie asked. "Has he taken his medications?" "Yeah, he did. He's resting in his room. He's running a fever and his limbs are weak," Ella said. Winnie nodded her head. It was no trouble for her to cook some porridge. There weren't any other ingredients at home, so she made some mincemeat porridge. When Ella passed her the salt, Winnie was shocked to see wounds on her hands. "Your hands?" "I cut them when I was trying to chop the meat," Ella said. Winnie looked at her slender fingers. She looked like she had never done household chores in her life. She had an older sister, so she was probably more doted on by everyone back at home. "I have plasters at home. I'll get you one later," Winnie said. 10 minutes later, Winnie had made a bowl of porridge. "You can bring this to him. I'm going to leave now." After Winnie left, Ella carried the porridge to the bedroom. Jeffrey was groggy as she woke him up gently. "The porridge is ready." Jeffrey opened his eyes. He didn't have an appetite, but he forced himself to take a few bites when he saw the platter in her hands. Unexpectedly, the porridge was delicious. There were slices of ginger in it, and his stomach felt comfortable. "How's the taste?" Ella asked tentatively. Jeffrey answered coldly as he finished the entire bowl. Ella was relieved. Although he didn't tell her, she could tell it suited his taste. "I'm okay now. You can go home." Jeffrey laid back down in his bed. He was overly anxious and frustrated over these past few days. He had also caught a cold from that night in the hotel, but only started running a fever today. "I'm worried about you. Why don't I?" "Ella, thank you for making me porridge, but I'm not comfortable with letting a girl sleep over." Jeffrey rejected her quickly. He wasn't feeling well and he was not in the mood to handle her. "All right, I won't disturb you then. I'll bring you breakfast tomorrow morning." Ella tucked him in before leaving. After she left, Jeffrey spent a moment focusing on the aftertaste of the porridge, finding it was not that bad. He learned to cook back when he was a little boy. Before today, no other woman had ever made porridge for him. The taste of the porridge made him feel at home. Jeffrey was pretty annoyed by Ella, as she insisted on following him to his apartment. But now, he was thinking that maybe he should try to get to know more about her. The next day, he woke up feeling much better. He went out of his room into the kitchen. The kitchen was perfectly tidy. Even the kitchen waste had been taken away. He was a little satisfied. He didn't like it when women made a mess in the kitchen without cleaning it afterward. Melissa always did that. He refreshed himself, finding that half of the porridge from yesterday was still in the pot. He went downstairs, jogged, and bought 2 steamed stuffed buns near the entrance of the neighborhood. On his way back, he saw a woman in a white pajama suit. Her face was covered in a face mask. She was taking a plastic bag from a delivery man. At the side of her backside, Jeffrey recognized her as Winnie. She was sneakily looking around. Winnie's eyes popped with surprise when she saw him. Then she quickly turned and walked away, as if she was a mouse and he was a cat. Jeffrey felt a little speechless. Her behavior made him want to bully her. He caught up with her, clasped her hat from behind, and said, "Aren't you tired? Why'd you run away every time you see me? Aren't you proud? Can't you pretend not to see me?" Winnie pushed his hand away. She was, of course, nervous. She was there to pick up emergency contraception pills. Jeffrey glanced at the plastic bag in her hand and saw the name of a nearby pharmacy on it. "Are you having a cold too?" he asked. "No." Winnie automatically held the plastic bag tighter in case he saw what was inside. However, Jeffrey's eyes were keen enough to see Durex's logo. which was by the edge of the bag. "Did you buy some condoms?" "Stop talking nonsense." Winnie's cheeks reddened. "I didn't." "I saw them," Jeffrey said. "Do you have a boyfriend?" Somehow he felt a little uncomfortable. Winnie paused briefly, then sneakily opened the plastic bag and looked inside. 2 condoms were lying beside the pillbox. Those were probably a free gift. What was wrong with that pharmacy? "These are free gifts." "What kind of medicine did you buy?" "Why did they give you condoms as a free gift?" Jeffrey suspected she bought a large box of condoms. Winnie didn't know how to explain. She felt that she could never explain it. "It's none of your business," she said. Her words made Jeffrey believe his guess. "You didn't get back together with your ex-boyfriend, did you?" "No," Winnie responded. "I collect these things. It's my hobby." This time, Jeffrey didn't know what to say. "Have you ever seen me bringing a guy back home? Besides, I'm so busy," Winnie said. "Ask your sister if you don't believe me. She knows about my hobby." April always felt she was weirdly into condoms. Jeffrey stayed silent. He didn't believe that a girl could have such a strange hobby. As he didn't say anything, Winnie turned and left. They entered the building one after another and ran into each other again before the elevator. No one else was there, and no one spoke. Winnie felt a little awkward. After standing there for a while, she asked him, "Is your fever down yet?" "How'd you know about that?" Jeffrey looked over. "I bumped into Ella on my way home last night." Winnie looked over at him. "You're dating her now? So fast?" Jeffrey frowned. Since when was he dating Ella? He didn't deny it after recalling that she made him porridge the night before. He could try to get to know her better. He accidentally took her virginity, so as a man, he should take responsibility. Winnie thought that he was agreeing with her after her request was met with silence. "Ella's nice. She cut her hand last night while trying to make you porridge, then she even asked me to teach her how to make it." "You made me porridge last night?" Jeffrey asked. "Yeah, I taught her how to make it." Winnie was worried that she might say something wrong and affect their relationship. Of course she wouldn't tell him how she was teaching her and making the porridge at the same time, or the fact that she cleaned up the kitchen afterward. Although Ella was a little clumsy in the kitchen, she was still willing to try and put in an effort for Jeffrey. Jeffrey frowned. Ella didn't tell him that Winnie had helped her last night. "Do you want some buns?" Jeffrey offered her the buns in his hand. "No thanks. I made some porridge and eggs at home." Winnie shook her head. She didn't dare eat his buns. Jeffrey frowned even deeper. He thought about the porridge he had last night. He was planning on heating up the remaining bit. But since she made a fresh batch, "Don't you think the porridge will taste a lot better with the buns?" Jeffrey wriggled his brows suddenly. "I can bring some buns over if you would share your porridge with me." What a shameless man. Winnie was speechless. "I think I'll just have it with some eggs. I don't need to eat too much for breakfast." "Nah, you're my sister's friend. If my sister found out that I didn't share my buns, she would reprimand me. Buns are so expensive now. It's $2 for one." The lift doors opened. Jeffrey walked in and turned to her saying, "Well, come along now." Winnie's expression was sour. $2 for one? That was one expensive bun. His mood was suddenly lifted. Winnie walked in and said, "Won't your sister reprimand you for snatching my red packet?" "I think I told you already. I took what was mine," Jeffrey answered her coolly. Winnie shut her eyes, feeling speechless. When the elevator reached their floor, she opened her door with her keys and Jeffrey followed closely behind. She wanted to shut the door behind her, but he stopped it and walked into the apartment in a proud manner. "Sorry to disturb you." He had the nerve to say that? He was trespassing, wasn't he? Jeffrey removed his shoes and retrieved a couple of plates from the kitchen, placing the buns on them. Winnie didn't think it was necessary to grab plates for the buns, but since he was already in her apartment, she had no choice. She still felt bad for sleeping with him, so she told herself to be more tolerant. She scooped 2 bowls of porridge and sprinkled strips of ginger on top. She had only cooked 1 egg, so she decided to cook 1 more. When she handed over the porridge, Jeffrey could tell that it was the exact same one he had the night before. "You made the porridge last night by yourself, didn't you? Ella only watched you?" Jeffrey said suddenly. "What's the difference?" Winnie thought his question was irrelevant. Jeffrey paused for a few seconds, then frowned and responded with, "Of course there's a difference. Ella's porridge won't taste the same now." Winnie blinked. He seemed to be right. She thought for a moment, then replied, saying, "It will eventually." Jeffrey didn't know what to say, but lowered his head and ate the porridge silently. He found that she was pretty good at cooking, the first time he ate her food. "Your sister makes good porridge as well." Winnie thought he was simply into porridge. But she rarely cooked since she became pregnant. Jeffrey responded absent-mindedly. "Erin won't let her cook for me." One time she peeled his shrimp for him, but after that, Erin started to see him as a pain in the ass. Winnie agreed with him. "It's all right," she said. "You can ask Ella to make it for you." Jeffrey felt annoyed again. He focused on the porridge. After finishing the first bowl of porridge, he asked for the second. When he started his third bowl, Winnie couldn't help but remind him, "Maybe you should save some for me?" "I thought 1 bowl of porridge would be enough for a girl," Jeffrey replied confusedly. "Besides, you never seem to have a good appetite." Winnie sighed silently. "Yes, compared to you and your sister, I do have a poor appetite," she thought. She didn't need the last bowl of porridge. She was just unhappy that Jeffrey always acted like a close friend when he was eating her food, despite the bad attitude he had been giving her. "Have some buns if you're still hungry." Winnie stayed silent. At last, she let him have as much porridge as he wanted. After breakfast, Jeffrey conveniently washed the dishes. Before leaving, he said in a bland tone, "Thank you for your hospitality. To apologize to you, I'll bring donuts and carrot cakes tomorrow morning. You can make another porridge. How about pancakes?" Winnie didn't see that coming. "Thank you," she said. "I didn't show you any hospitality, and you don't need to apologize to me. You can have your breakfast alone tomorrow." Jeffrey knitted his brows and said, "I'll buy you so much food, you won't suffer any loss." "You were mean to me," Winnie complained. "You only be nice to me when you want some porridge, and you'll be mean as ever when you don't want porridge. What do you think I am?" Jeffrey stared at her angry face, then abruptly burst into laughter. "I get it. You're so angry because I said Sylvia's prettier than you when you tried on the bridesmaids' dresses. And because I took your red envelopes at the wedding, right?" Winnie's face reddened. If she admitted it, he might think that she likes to be complimented and that she loves money. If she denied it, she might seem dishonest. Jeffrey thought for a moment and said, "Those are some little things. How about this? I'll take you to dinner someday and then we'll be even." Winnie responded helplessly, saying, "It's just some porridge." "Do you have to do that? Is the porridge even good?" Jeffrey spent a few minutes thinking, then told the truth. "Actually, it's not so good. It's just it tastes like my imaginary mother's porridge." Winnie didn't know what to say. She was not his mother. "You didn't need to be so honest," she thought. "You could have just told me it was delicious. I might have said yes." "Go and ask Auntie Mel to cook some for you then," she said. "Didn't you hear what I said? I said imaginary mom's food. My real mother cooks awful food." Jeffrey frowned as he recalled his mother's food. "I don't make porridge every day. Today was an accident. Your sister gave me her meal card. She still has over 10,000 won on it. It would be a waste if I can't spend it all," Winnie said. "Oh, really? Aaron topped up the card, didn't he? Let me call him to let him know. I can't believe my sister gave you everything," said Jeffrey. Winnie was about to break down. Aaron would definitely teach her a lesson if he heard about this. She knew what kind of person he was. He wouldn't even allow anyone to keep April's hair. "All right, that's enough. Beef porridge, right? I'll make some for you." Winnie forced a weak smile. "All right. Use fresh beef, please." Jeffrey nodded his head and walked back to his room. Winnie heaved a sigh of relief. Luckily, she chose to run away that morning. If he managed to get a grip on her, he would exploit her and torture her to no end. She admired Ella for having the courage to date someone like him. Jeffrey went to class in a good mood. The moment he sat down, Austin walked over with some breakfast.
A junior from the performing arts faculty delivered breakfast for you. What's your relationship with her? She told me to take care of you since you weren't feeling well these past few days.
Jeffrey looked at the breakfast. There was porridge as well.
You can have it. I already had breakfast. That's not nice.
Austin hesitated.
It's her gesture towards you.
Jeffrey rubbed his temple.
I'm too full. I'll throw it away if you won't have it.
All right. Austin secretly finished the food during class. At around noon, Jeffrey went to the canteen after class. Ella saw him and walked over with 2 packets of food. Jeffrey, I got lunch for you.
I'm so envious of you.
Austin gave him a look and then went to get in line for his own food. Jeffrey hesitated before sitting down with Ella. He was the most good-looking guy in school, and they attracted a lot of attention when they took their seats. Ella handed over a piece of meat from her own plate. Jeffrey, are you feeling better now? Do you still have a headache? Did you eat breakfast that I brought you this morning? Jeffrey's ears hurt. He didn't like nagging women.
I didn't eat your breakfast. I already ate at home today the porridge you cooked last night.
Ella was joyful. You liked it? I'll cook more for you tonight then.
Yeah, I like your porridge,
Jeffrey said suddenly.
I didn't expect you to cook so well. I need to reevaluate you now.
I have many other things I'm good at. We have plenty of time to discover all of them, said Ella. Jeffrey said sarcastically.
Like how you claim the credit for the porridge that you didn't make?
Ella's expression froze. Jeffrey!
I'm full.
Jeffrey stood up. Jeffrey! Ella stood up quickly. Right. I asked Winnie to teach me how to make it last night, but I chopped up the meat myself. I tried to make you some, but I failed. I learned from her and took notes. I can prove it tonight.
You don't even know how to cook porridge. Did you really make the breakfast that you gave me?
Jeffrey said with mockery.
I remember you told me that you made it yourself.
Ella blushed. Actually, my mom made that. But I've been watching her make it, and I'm trying really hard to learn it myself. Really?
Right. You said that you made it yourself when your mother made it, and you tried to get credit for what Winnie did too. Learning and watching are very different from making. Don't you know that after 12 years of compulsory education?
Jeffrey turned to leave. Ella cried in an injured voice. Jeffrey had said mean words to her before, but this time, it was different. Suddenly, she saw Winnie and Ryan walk over together, laughing and chatting. She wiped her tears, walked up to Winnie, blocked her way, and said to her, Winnie, do you like Jeffrey?
What?
Winnie was so shocked that her mouth was wide open. Looking at the angry little girl, she was a little worried. This girl didn't find out that I've slept with Jeffrey, did she?
I don't,
she said. Ella observed her face, then said unhappily, Why did you tell him that it was you who made the porridge? He thinks that I lied to him. That's not what I meant. Last night he had a fever. I just wanted him to have some of my porridge, so I didn't mention you to him. Plus, I was helping, wasn't I? Now he thinks I'm a liar. She started to cry. What did I do wrong? I don't know how to make porridge, but I'm trying my best to learn. I'll do anything for him. Winnie sighed with relief. It was only because of the porridge.
She still felt wrong, though. All right, stop crying.
She handed Ella some tissues and said,
I didn't tell him anything. I even spoke for you this morning. He figured it out himself.
How could he possibly figure it out? Ella took the tissue, raised her head, and looked at Winnie with a pair of watery eyes. Her eyes were filled with distrust. Winnie felt the blame fall upon her.
I met him this morning, and I told him that you're great.
I told him that you even hurt your hand to make porridge for him. I told him to cherish you. How am I supposed to know that you lied to him?" Ella argued, saying, "I have told you that I didn't lie on purpose. He was ill. I couldn't tell him all the details, could I?" Winnie felt annoyed. "All right. It's my fault, okay? I shouldn't talk to him at all. From now on, I won't say a single word about whatever is going on between you and him. I'm older than both of you. How can I be fond of my best friend's younger brother, who's also a junior of mine? Can you please stop making assumptions?" She then walked away from Ella to order food. Ryan glanced at Ella and laughed. "That girl is young, but fierce." Winnie shrugged. "How can a girl not be fierce if she wants to be with Jeffrey? The other few girls from your department are as innocent as a piece of unwritten paper." Ryan shrugged and responded with, "You're right. I think you should stay away from her. You are a public figure now. Don't bring more trouble to yourself because of them." I'm aware of that," Winnie nodded. Jeffrey sat under a tree in the playground, thinking about Ella. He found that she was dishonest and she always lied. Winnie was different. She told his sister that he liked to look at dirty photos, but that didn't make him dislike her as much as he disliked Ella. Also, Winnie felt guilty after doing bad things. Ella wouldn't. On the contrary, she always made herself sound very reasonable, meaning that she was born that way. No matter how much time he spent with her, he wouldn't like her. Besides, she probably lied about that night too. The idea flashed across Jeffrey's mind. He immediately stood up and drove to the club as if he just saw a gleam of hope. In the club, he talked to the manager and told him that he lost his wallet in the club that night and asked to see the surveillance video. A large club wouldn't normally show the surveillance video to guests. The manager brought him to the control center. The security guard searched but couldn't find the footage. "How could it be gone?" The manager frowned. "The footage is gone from that day." The security guard scratched his head. "Oh, I remember now. Rio said that the system was faulty that day and he notified someone to come fix it. It's fixed now, but the videos from that day are gone. It's noted on the records." The manager flipped through the records and showed it to Jeffrey. "I'm sorry there's no recording. It'll be difficult to find your wallet. I'm extremely sorry." Jeffrey looked at the screen and glanced at the security guard again. He didn't seem like he was lying, so he took his leave. He thought the whole incident was peculiar. What were the odds? The footage from that day was gone. Was it really a coincidence? In the evening, when the security guards changed shift, the guard told Freddie that someone asked for the footage from that day. Freddie heaved a sigh of relief. Luckily, he heeded the advice from that pretty girl that day to file a system malfunction report. If the hotel management found out that he accepted bribes and deleted the footage, he would be fired for sure. In the afternoon, Jeffrey went straight home after his class. On his way home, he saw Winnie emerge from a small shop with a cup of bubble tea wearing a baseball cap. She was walking and enjoying her drink. The gentle rays of sunlight shone on her. She was wearing a simple white t-shirt, a tight pair of cropped jeans, and white canvas shoes. She looked slim and carefree. "Why are you going home so early?" Jeffrey walked over with his hand in his pocket. Winnie's expression changed when she saw him, and she quickened her pace. Jeffrey frowned and blocked her path. "Why do you always act this way when you see me? Aren't you tired of this?" "Do you think I enjoy this?" Winnie shrugged. "Nothing good ever happens when I bump into you. I don't want your girlfriend to see us and misunderstand my intentions." Jeffrey was stunned and frowned deeper. "What did Ella say to you?" Winnie opened her mouth, but hesitated. If she told him the truth, she would be ratting Ella out again. She might argue with her and cause her a headache. "Nothing. She just came to explain things to me," Winnie said casually. Jeffrey chuckled coldly. "Did she think that you were so in discord?" Winnie didn't know what else to say. "Stop asking me questions. I don't want to be involved in your relationship." "Who's in a relationship here?" Jeffrey was irritated. "She's not my girlfriend." Winnie was speechless. "What was she doing at your place taking care of you when you're ill if she's not your girlfriend? You didn't deny it this morning." There's no point saying all this anyway. Boys nowadays are so irresponsible, toying with other people's feelings so carelessly. Jeffrey was frustrated. It was all for that bowl of porridge in the morning. He could figure out Ella's character in just about half a day. Frankly, he had his doubts about that night in the hotel as well. He should have lifted the blankets to see if there were any marks on her body that morning. I didn't ask her to come to my place. I wasn't feeling well and she has been following me around. Jeffrey was extremely annoyed. I will clarify things with her anyway. Winnie covered her ears. I can't hear you well, so don't tell me it doesn't have anything to do with me. Jeffrey was not happy either. Why did he try so hard to explain to her? She thought that he was a playboy, so let it be. She was nobody to him. He spent a while thinking, then finally concluded. You think I want to tell you all this? I just worried that you might gossip about me with your sister. She wants me to have a girlfriend even more than my mom does. Winnie wasn't delighted to hear that. How much did he think she liked to gossip? Don't worry, I won't say one word about you to your sister, Winnie said. Jeffrey pressed his lips together, putting on a long face. Winnie hurriedly turned and walked away. Jeffrey followed behind Winnie. They lived in the same building, so they shared the same destination. Winnie felt extremely awkward, as he was following behind her. She turned and walked into a supermarket. Where are you going? Jeffrey asked casually. To buy some beef, Winnie said without thinking. She planned to buy some beef on her way back home. However, she regretted telling him that because he said he wanted beef porridge for breakfast. It sounded like she was buying the beef for him. As she thought, Jeffrey smiled and said, Thank you. Get some tenderloin, please. That's the most tender part. As he finished talking, he kept walking forward. Winnie had never seen such an impolite man. She couldn't help but stomp her foot and say, You want the beef porridge yourself, don't you? Why do you make it sound like it's a job of mine? Jeffrey stopped moving and turned around. His impeccably handsome face showed surprise as he said, Are you asking me to go with you? Winnie paused as she didn't know how to respond. That's not what I meant, she tried to explain. I'm going with you. I want the porridge. It's inappropriate for you to go alone. Jeffrey spent a few seconds thinking, then walked into the supermarket. Winnie patted her forehead. She even wanted to tear her mouth out. Why on earth did she say that to him? Shopping with him was no better than shopping alone. Besides, it would become troublesome if anyone recognized her. However, she had no choice but to walk into the supermarket along with him. Jeffrey took a cart. He was only there to buy beef tenderloin, but he started shopping. He picked fresh fruit, vegetables, yogurt, ice cream, and some snacks. He spent a long time standing before the freezer, trying to select the beef. He carefully looked at every box of beef. Winnie followed behind him, watching him shop with surprise. She rarely saw a man who was so patient and careful when shopping. Most girls were like that. Jeffrey looked so cold and proud, not like someone who would shop with precision. Do you know how to cook chicken wings? Winnie asked as she was spending quite some time looking at the few boxes of chicken wings. Jeffrey nodded and said, These were packed yesterday. I'm wondering if I should buy them or not, and if I should buy 3 or 5. I can't eat 5 alone. He paused briefly, then turned his eyes to her and asked, Do you eat chicken wings? Winnie felt flattered. Are you going to cook for me? You're overthinking. You can have some if I can't finish them, said Jeffrey blandly. Winnie curved her lips downward. She decided to accept his chicken wings as she had to make him porridge tomorrow morning. All right, I'll eat them. Jeffrey picked the box, which contained 5 chicken wings. Seeing Jeffrey shop, Winnie started selecting food for herself as well. She was rarely at home, but she could at least buy some fruit and yogurt. This kind of yogurt isn't good. This new cheese flavor is not bad. The tall and slim Jeffrey walked up behind her, reached out a hand over her shoulder, and picked up a box of yogurt. His low voice was like a cello teasing her ears. He smelled like fresh laundry and she could feel the warmth of his body. Winnie turned to look behind her. His body was long and slender, and she seemed petite standing beside him, like a small woman. Except for Ben, she had never been this close to a man before. She shifted uncomfortably to the side. Jeffrey didn't notice it. Focused on the yogurt, he asked, "You should try this." "Are you sure it's good?" Winnie was skeptical. "I can have it if you don't like it," Jeffrey said coolly. She would rather force herself to eat it than give it to him. After they picked out their groceries, they went to the checkout counter. They divided their items into 2 piles, and Jeffrey said casually, "You can pay first, although it's only a bit of money. I only spend money on women I like apart from my sister and mother." "Thanks, I didn't expect you to pay for me." Winnie didn't want to owe anyone anything, especially from a guy. After she got the bill, it was Jeffrey's turn to pay for his items. A couple was standing behind them when the man said, "Look at that man that you said was good looking. Look at how pretty he is. He wouldn't even pay $30 of groceries for his girlfriend. He's a miser, all right?" "Yeah, I didn't expect that either." The girl looked at Jeffrey with disappointment. Jeffrey heard them, but he walked off with his groceries, his expression unchanged. Winnie almost admired him. Any normal man would be embarrassed. Perhaps he really wasn't interested in her. When they walked out of the supermarket, Jeffrey fished out a cup of Haagen-Dazs and passed it to her. Winnie was stunned. "Do you want me to open this for you?" What was this woman thinking? Jeffrey was speechless. "This is for you." Winnie was pleasantly surprised. "You don't have to give me ice cream because of what they said back there." She already knew how lousy his personality was. There was no need to put on a show. "Do you think I'm someone who cares for comments like that?" Jeffrey sighed. "Can you tell how good a man is from his spending? Some people who are willing to spend loads of money on you might never marry you. I admire men who only spend on their one true love for their entire lives." Winnie's heart fluttered. He made some sense. There were a lot of men who knew what to do to make a woman happy. Money was an important tool for them, and many of them only wanted to sleep with women. "Well, thanks." Winnie took the ice cream but hesitated again. "I thought you said you were only willing to spend money on your girlfriend." "It was out of convenience. I was planning to have some myself. I should always offer a lady some food." Jeffrey started eating his ice cream happily. Winnie sighed. She was touched by his gesture, but she gave him too much credit. He bought the rum flavor. It had been a long time since she had some good ice cream. As she started eating, she sadly realized that it was the first time that a man bought her an ice cream. There was a saying that went, "If you love her, buy her an ice cream." She glanced over at Jeffrey and laminated to herself, "My nemesis." She finished her treat by the time they arrived home, but she was still unsatisfied. They went back to their own apartments. Winnie took out the yogurt and tasted the type Jeffrey had recommended. Surprisingly, it tasted okay. She found that the boy next door was honestly a gourmet. After dinner, Winnie laid on the couch watching TV. She had been working a lot lately, so hadn't relaxed much. As she was about to fall asleep, someone knocked on her door. She opened the door and saw Jeffrey standing there. He was carrying a plate that had 2 gold crispy chicken wings on it. "These are for you." Jeffrey handed her the food, turned, and left. Winnie picked up one of the chicken wings and took a bite. It was spicy and delicious. She quickly finished the 2 chicken wings and wanted more, but she wasn't shameless enough to ask him to make more for her. To thank Jeffrey for the chicken wings, she made him some beef porridge the next morning. A little before 8 a.m., Jeffrey showed up at her door wearing a sports suit. His forehead was covered in sweat. His cheeks were red and his lips were moist. His body radiated young and energetic hormones. Looking at him, Winnie suddenly recalled she woke up in his arms that morning. She remembered his slim and muscular waist. Suddenly, her cheeks slightly reddened. "Why is your face so red?" Jeffrey lowered his head to look at her. "It's hot," Winnie awkwardly replied. "Your face is even redder than mine." "I just finished jogging." Jeffrey smelled the congee. He walked into her apartment and said, "I also got us some breakfast from a bakery." The bakery is 2 or 3 miles away from here. Winnie was surprised.
I jogged there, it's not that far,
Jeffrey said as he brought the breakfast into the kitchen and got himself a bowl of porridge. The breakfast he bought was rich. Winnie felt a little bad since she only made some congee. Do you jog every day? Winnie asked. Jeffrey nodded.
Yeah, I eat a lot. I'd get fat if I didn't jog.
April can't get fat no matter how much she eats, Winnie said. Jeffrey thought for a moment and replied,
I eat a lot of snacks.
Most boys don't like snacks, Winnie said with a laugh. Jeffrey paused before saying,
When I was little, I couldn't afford most of the candies that I wanted. I know how to cook, yet I couldn't afford some good ingredients. Since my financial situation has gotten better, I tend to let myself eat whatever I want and as much as I want.
Winnie felt slight pity for him. She had heard from April that Melissa and Jeffrey used to live a very hard life, but she never thought that it was that hard. It was reasonable that he grew up into such a weird person. You're right, Winnie said. Eat whatever you want. Don't mistreat yourself.
Tomorrow, can you make me minced pork porridge with eggs? Jeffrey asked without thinking. I have eggs.
Winnie didn't respond. She thought, is he going to have breakfast at my place every day? Why didn't you make it yourself in your own kitchen? Winnie helplessly asked.
I think you're pretty good at cooking. I can't eat that much alone, and my porridge isn't as good as yours.
Jeffrey dropped his eyelids and said,
How about this? I make you after-dinner snacks while you make me porridge.
Winnie couldn't resist but nod and say, I want the chicken wings that you made last night.
Deal.
Jeffrey smiled and took out his phone.
Give me your number.
At around 9 a.m., Ella walked over with breakfast in hand the moment Jeffrey entered the school gates. Her eyes were still red and puffy. Jeffrey, I made this myself today, she said. You can try it.
I've had breakfast already, Jeffrey replied.
He found her irritating. He didn't feel that way at all when he had breakfast with Winnie. They were both women, so why was it so different? Jeffrey lowered his head and stared at Ella. Her features were cute and she looked bright and youthful. It was a completely different look from Winnie, who appeared quiet and demure. What's wrong? Ella was blushing as he continued to stare at her. Jeffrey suddenly bent his head and pushed her against the wall. He slowly lowered his lips. Ella's heart was beating quickly. She shyly closed her eyes. Jeffrey stopped when he was inches away from her lips and backed away. Ella waited for him to kiss her for a long time before opening her eyes. He appeared to be deep in thought. Jeffrey?
I wanted to try to kiss you, Jeffrey casually said, but I found it hard to actually do it. That makes me question if I could even desire you when I was drunk.
Ella's face went pale. What? What do you mean? I like you, and I gave you my first time willingly. How could you say something like that? Jeffrey rubbed his eyebrows and said,
You saw for yourself. I really tried to kiss you, but I lost all desire to do that once I saw you. I tried to accept you, but I failed. If I date you, I wouldn't be able to kiss you, nor will I ever be able to lust for you. You're so young. How could you stand a life like that? I don't think I should put you in misery. Goodbye. Don't come and look for me anymore.
He turned to leave. Ella was speechless. She quickly grabbed him. She was on the brink of tears as she pleaded. Jeffrey, you can't do this to me.
Don't tell me about how it was your first time. It was my first time too.
Jeffrey was increasingly frustrated.
Even if I were drunk, I can remember that you were the one who initiated it.
Ella opened her mouth but could not say a word.
You can just dismiss my first time just because I'm a man, right? Jeffrey asked.
Well, I can take responsibility for you, Ella stuttered.
I will never have a desire for you in my life, and I don't plan on being a monk,
Jeffrey said before walking straight into the classroom. He finally felt the burden released from his chest. Although he felt like he was being irresponsible and shameless, neither of them would be happy if they forced things to work. Besides, who knew if it really was Ella that night? She did have a track record for lying. When classes ended, Austin called out to him.
Hey, Jeffrey, how about a game of basketball? No thanks. I'm going to go buy chicken wings from the supermarket today,
Jeffrey said as he threw his backpack casually over his shoulder. Austin was speechless.
What is a good-looking man like you doing cooped up at home? Go back a little later. Come on, let's go.
He dragged Jeffrey to the basketball court. There were a few sophomore boys from there who were tall and hunky. They had attracted quite a crowd of girls who were cheering them on. During the game, all the boys suddenly became excited. They were trying their best to pitch. Zach, who was on Jeffrey's team, grabbed the ball, rushed straight forward, but ended up letting an opposing player steal the ball. The opposing player successfully hit a three-pointer. Jeffrey complained.
Do you even know how to play? Why didn't you pass the ball to me just now?
Austin ran over, patted him on the shoulder, and said,
You have to understand him. Everybody wants to make a good performance in front of the goddess.
Jeffrey turned to look outside the playground. A group of girls were gathering there. A comely girl was standing under a tree in a black and white striped t-shirt, black trousers, and a pair of white shoes. Her hair was long and black. She was so pretty and special, like the most beautiful scenery. Jeffrey had seen the scenery this morning. This morning she was in a pajama suit, and her long hair was coiled in a bun.
Don't you know about it? Winnie has been recognized as the prettiest girl in our school this month,
said Zach regrettably.
Seriously, she's getting more and more beautiful since she became famous. Damn it! I didn't play well just now. She must have seen it.
Jeffrey was never interested in those kind of things. But at that very moment, he looked at Winnie and suddenly a sense of strange peacefulness came from his heart. Yet still, he responded to his friends in a bland tone.
That is the prettiest girl in our school.
Austin rolled his eyes and said,
She is known as the prettiest girl in the music department, while your sister was the prettiest one in the broadcasting department. People voted on the prettiest girl in school, and Winnie won. She's so elegant and pure.
Jeffrey raised his eyebrows.
Yeah, the elegant and pure girl likes chicken wings, he thought. He turned and said, All right, stop looking at her. Just continue the game.
The game started again. He dribbled with beautiful movements and then hit a three-pointer, winning an applause from the entire playground. He turned back, glanced at the girl, and slightly curved his lips into a faint smile. At 9:20 p.m., Jeffrey brought the chicken wings to Winnie's place. Winnie had just taken a shower. She was wearing a dark green pajama suit which emphasized her snow-white skin and beautiful collarbones. The dark green color looked so fascinating on her. Thank you. Winnie took over the chicken wings. Her eyes glowed slightly. Jeffrey gave her a bland glance. Then he scanned her table with his eyes and said,
Are you having the yogurt that I recommended?
Winnie felt a little embarrassed. Her snow-white skin turned slightly pink. Someone had caught her eating snacks. Jeffrey glanced at the yogurt again and said,
Do you believe me now?
Yes, Winnie nodded, hoping for him to leave. Right at that moment, someone knocked on the door. Marvin stood by the open door in a black suit. Under the warm light, he seemed gentle and mature. He was holding a vacuum cup and was a little stunned when he saw the scene inside the flat. Mr. Marvin, what brings you here? Winnie was surprised.
I didn't have too much work to do at the company today, so I came here to see you. You got...
Marvin confusedly looked at the plate in Jeffrey's hands. These two can't get along, can they? He wondered.
I have some extra chicken wings. I can't finish them alone, so I brought them here for her,
Jeffrey said coldly. Hearing that, Marvin smiled and said,
Good then. The chicken wings might make you thirsty. Winnie, I brought you some hot milk.
Winnie's face wore a slightly awkward look. She was aware that Marvin had feelings for her. She rejected him once, but...
Why did you bring milk? Doesn't she have milk?
Jeffrey abruptly turned to Winnie and continued,
Don't you have a fresh box of milk in your cabinet?
Marvin felt uncomfortable because Jeffrey reminded him of his boss. There was only one April in the entire world,
but it would be a miracle for him to even find a girlfriend. You won't understand it now. You'll get it when you meet a girl who makes you want to make her a hot cup of milk in the middle of the night. Marvin handed the thermos flask to Winnie. He was holding on to a dessert. I made this cake myself. It's a little ugly, but I think it tastes fine. You can try it if you don't mind. Winnie was stunned. She didn't want to embarrass Marvin, so she accepted the cake. Thank you. I didn't know you made cakes as well. Marvin smiled. Before he could tell her that he only learned how to make it for her, Jeffrey interjected. I know how to make cakes. It's pretty easy. Marvin's cake looks like it can be improved upon. Can I taste it? Since he asked, Marvin could only force a smile and say, You will have to ask Winnie. I've already given it to her. We can all eat it together. Winnie tried to ease the situation. The chicken wings as well. Jeffrey frowned. He didn't like other people eating his chicken wings. He only gave them to Winnie out of politeness. Since she already offered, he wasn't going to make a big fuss over it. He would tell her later that it was unacceptable. Marvin was glad. It was wonderful to eat with Winnie. He was just a little worried about Jeffrey. After Jeffrey tasted the cake, he said, Is this cheesecake? The taste isn't sharp enough. You probably didn't whisk the egg whites for long enough, or you didn't smooth out the aluminum foil at the bottom. Oh, all right. I'll take note. Marvin nodded his head politely. Jeffrey proceeded to eat 3/4 of the cake before stopping and saying to Winnie, I'm done. Assistant Marvin specially made this for you, so I shouldn't finish the whole thing. Winnie looked over at Marvin sympathetically. She thought, how could he leave just a bit for me when he knew that it wasn't nice to do so? Well, Jeffrey, aren't you going back to bed? Marvin asked. He was hoping Jeffrey would make way for him and Winnie to hang out. After all, it wasn't easy for him to find time to date. Jeffrey frowned. He thought about how he would be leaving the pair alone in the middle of the night if he left. Marvin was so desperate and thirsty, so how could he leave? Especially since Winnie was dressed sexily. He might lose control and force himself on her. Although he had no feelings for her, he thought he should look out for her as a good neighbor. Since she was his sister's friend as well, he would need to take responsibility if anything happened to her. Men should be righteous like that. Instead of leaving, Jeffrey found a topic to talk about. He asked, How's April? Why hasn't she been to class recently? She's heavily pregnant, Winnie said. Mr. Bennett won't let her out of the house unless it's an important class. How about Aaron? Jeffrey asked. Is he treating her well? He hasn't found a woman outside just because he's married now, has he? Marvin was about to have a breakdown. He thought, what kind of conversation is this? Before they knew it, they carried on the awkward conversation until around 11 p.m. Winnie was getting tired. She yawned and said, It's getting pretty late. You two should head back soon. You guys should exchange your social media handles if you really want to continue talking. Jeffrey thought, does he really want to be friends with me? He wasn't interested in talking to that little brat, but he nodded his head since he didn't want to impose on Winnie. As the door was closed, Marvin couldn't help but say to Jeffrey, Mr. Diaz, your brother-in-law finally let me go off work early to make some efforts to please the girl I like. Do you have to get between us? You came to please the girl so late. Jeffrey glanced at him blandly and said, Were you going to stay the night at her place? Marvin's face reddened. Nonsense! I got off work at 6, went back home to make the cake, and then came here. I normally work until 8 or 9. I can't tell for sure what you're really thinking about. After all, I don't know you well. Jeffrey turned, then entered the passcode to unlock his door. Looking at his back, Marvin clenched his teeth and asked, You don't fancy her, do you? Jeffrey paused for a second, then replied with, I don't like women. I like men. After saying that, he turned and stared at Marvin straight in the eyes. Under his gaze, Marvin had goosebumps. I gotta go. As he finished talking, he hurriedly walked into the elevator, then sighed with relief. As he left, Jeffrey relaxed his tightened face. How could he possibly be fond of Winnie? He only liked her cooking.
The next morning, Jeffrey went to Winnie's place for the porridge. After finishing a small half bowl of porridge, he said,
"Earlier, I said that you're not vigilant enough. It turned out that I'm right. How could you let Marvin into your apartment so late at night? You know how he feels about you."
Winnie knitted her delicate brows and said, "Mr. Marvin is fine. He's a decent man."
"I don't think so. The more a man is experienced, the smarter he'll become. He may just hold and kiss you once you accept his milk. Be careful. Better not open the door next time unless I'm here with you."
As he finished talking, Jeffrey lowered his head to eat the croissant. Winnie was a little confused by his words. "Are you a decent man? Don't forget what happened in the elevator." Her cheeks turned red, and she couldn't manage to finish her statement. Of course, what happened in the elevator wasn't the whole story. She enjoyed that night, and he was so wild.
"I was inexperienced back then,"
Jeffrey said carelessly. "So are you experienced now?" Winnie said in her head. Thinking about what they had both experienced that night, she fell into silence, focusing on the kanji. Jeffrey frowned. They both had secrets. Splingo. At about 9:10 a.m., Marvin listlessly brought some files into the small conference room. Aaron came in with large steps, sat down and crossed his legs. He glanced at Marvin a few times, then said,
"What's wrong? Didn't I let you leave early to pursue the girl yesterday?"
Marvin was speechless. Could 6 p.m. be called early at all?
"Mr. Bennett," he said, "can I ask you, do you have a younger brother that you don't know about yet?" "Who?"
Aaron wore a serious face.
"Do you think my father had illegitimate children with other women?"
That would be a serious misunderstanding. Marvin hurriedly explained,
"No! I went to Winnie's place yesterday and Jeffrey was there. He refused to leave but kept talking to me about you."
Aaron raised his brows.
"What did he say? Is he worried that I might mistreat April? That'll never happen." "I feel that he's fond of Winnie too,"
Marvin said, frowning. He was a little worried. Jeffrey was young, handsome, and was Aaron's brother-in-law. He could never win against that boy.
"Stop talking nonsense."
Aaron leaned against the back of his chair and said blandly,
"Winnie might be frightened if she heard what you just said. How unlucky would she be to get that boy?"
How could he speak of his own brother-in-law this way?
Besides, their personalities resemble one another. "Don't worry, be brave and chase after her," Aaron said. "Winnie would never like anyone like him. He's too childish. Women these days like men who are mature, like us. Take me, for example. April couldn't wait to tie me down at such a young age."
"So you think I'm trying to tie you down?" A woman's voice was heard from the door. Aaron froze. When he saw her, he quickly said,
"I haven't finished my sentence. It's a happy problem to have."
"Didn't you say that I couldn't wait to tie you down?" April asked.
"I am the one who couldn't wait to tie you down," Aaron said as he held her hand. "If I hadn't met you, I would have probably died alone. That's why I think it's difficult for Marvin to find a girlfriend. He's getting quite old after all."
This conversation wasn't helping Marvin at all. "All right, don't drag Marvin into this with you," April said as she rolled her eyes.
"Baby, why are you here?" Aaron asked with a smile. "We haven't been apart for more than an hour. Do you miss me already?"
April blushed and handed over a stack of documents. "You forgot to bring these. I've been cooped up at home thanks to you these days. I have nothing better to do. I just wanted to take a walk and get some fresh air, so I delivered these to you myself." Aaron frowned, but he still pulled her into his lap. After she sat down, he said,
"Wifey, you're lucky you're sitting on my lap. An ordinary man wouldn't be able to handle the weight."
April was annoyed. She angrily stood up and pushed him away. "Of course I'm heavy given how pregnant I am. For whom did I gain the weight?" Aaron was still holding her hands. He innocently looked at her tummy and said,
"Little brat, did you hear that? Your mother is gaining weight because of you."
Marvin slapped his palm into his face. His boss was about to shoot his own foot again. Just as he predicted, April flung his hand away and said, "Don't put this on your son. I can't be bothered to talk to you. Don't talk to me anymore. You don't have to worry about this sweet dilemma of yours any longer." She angrily walked off. Aaron was about to go to a meeting, so he didn't run after her. Marvin couldn't help but say, "Mr. Bennett, I think it's your fault Miss April's pregnant." I was just joking." Aaron seemed frustrated. "I didn't expect April to not appreciate my humor." Marvin shuddered as he thought, he was telling a joke? It's creepy and weird that he would do that. Doesn't he know that he's had an extremely cold disposition in the past? He was suddenly sympathetic toward April. The managers from the investing department had all arrived except for Richard. The meeting was delayed since not everyone was present, so everyone was playing on their phones. "Hey, look! Jack was detained in Paris and denied bail," manager said. "The tables have turned. Mr. Oda has publicly apologized and he's free to go home." Aaron looked up and smiled. "Our government must have pressured them. So many of our scientists would be disheartened to know that an outstanding physicist was left in the lurch. It's too bad we couldn't persecute Mr. Oda," manager angrily said. "We should sue him in return." "They have reached some sort of agreement," Aaron said. "Let me look into it." Aaron saw Jack's delicate face in the news photo. He spent a short while reading the news with a frown, then gave the phone back. At the police station, Sylvia read the news as well. She was excited. She thought Jack would stay in France for a while, but to her surprise, he came back quickly. "You're reading the news about Jack again?" Lenny showed up behind her and looked at the photo on her phone. "Sure I am," said Sylvia, filled with indignation. "The Japanese man and Europeans did such a shameless thing. Now they've released him. Who's going to punish the plagiarists then?" "Stop asking for more. They've run out of their countries long ago. They'll never admit so easily," said Lenny. "I'm going to ask Sergeant Brown about it." Sylvia stood up, then ran toward the director's office. Sergeant Brown had a guest, so she waited. Before she started talking, Sergeant Brown said to her, "I know you're going to ask me questions about Jack. I can only tell you that each side has taken a step backward. No one has earned benefits. Now, Mr. Oda has had a very bad reputation in the world of physics. As for why we didn't sue him, that was Jack's decision." "Why did he make that decision?" Sylvia was surprised. Sergeant Brown shrugged and said, "Perhaps he was worried about his own safety. The longer he stayed abroad, the more danger he might need to face. Anyway, he has the right to make his own decision." Sylvia didn't know what to say. She was still angry. "Jack's case is ended. I heard that you have a lot of videos to check, don't you? Why are you free that you're always thinking about this case?" Sergeant Brown crossed his fingers and said, "I admit that Jack is good looking. You don't fancy him, do you?" "No." Sylvia awkwardly straightened her body and said, "I admire Mr. Kipling. When will he come back to Rosewood City?" "I don't know. He might not even come back to Rosewood City at all. After all, Rosewood City isn't his hometown." Sergeant Brown waved a hand. "Go. Stop disturbing me. Cases are waiting for you to solve. Don't always think about the unimportant things." Sylvia left the office with disappointment. Back in her office, she thought about it carefully. Then she found the current situation was actually rather good. Jack had returned and his case was officially over. She had made it clear with him they couldn't start a relationship. They would both go back to their regular lives and that would be good. After thinking it through, Sylvia started checking the surveillance videos together with Lenny. Recently, she and her colleagues were dealing with a theft case. The thief had successfully stolen from 20 different places in a row. The case had aroused public attention. About 7 p.m., they were still watching the videos while eating out of takeout boxes. Abruptly, a voice was heard. "We've got some nice food here. Come on." Sylvia immediately stood up and ran out of the office. "What is it?" A few beautifully packed bags were lying on the table. She opened one and found some chocolate cookies and desserts. "Wow, who bought these? So generous." Sylvia hurriedly unpacked a chocolate cookie for herself. Anna weirdly glanced at her and said, "They're from Mr. Maxwell. He's Mr. Kipling's assistant. He said that this is a little gift from Mr. Kipling to thank you guys for taking care of him in France. The other squad got some too." Sylvia paused briefly, then asked, "They're back in the city?" "That should be the case," Sergeant Brown said. "I heard that Mr. Kipling is the guest physics lecturer at Rosewood City University. Sylvia nodded her head. She had heard about this before, so she wasn't surprised. She still wondered if he was able to lecture given his personality. She shook her head and thought, forget it. I'm not going to think about it. Since he asked Mr. Maxwell to come over, he was making things clear. She also made herself clear that day. They wouldn't have anything to do with each other anymore. After snacking, Sylvia went back to her office to monitor the surveillance footage. This sort of detective work was the most labor-intensive and dry. It required her to be attentive and focused. She worked until around 11 p.m.
I found it,
Lenny happily said.
This should be the suspect. Look at his figure, and his features are almost identical.
Great. Sylvia nodded her head. Her eyes were sore from watching the screen.
Hand it over to Captain. We're done here.
Around midnight, Sylvia left the station. When she got in her car, she looked around warily. She could sense someone was watching her. After looking around for a long while, she couldn't spot anything amiss, so she drove off. After Sylvia's car pulled away, the car window of the black sedan parked nearby lowered.
Mister, you gave up your right to sue Mr. Oda and waited here for 8 hours just to catch a glimpse of her? Is it worth it?
Mr. Maxwell asked with a sigh. Jack looked out the window in a daze. After nearly a minute, he wrote on his notepad,
She looks pretty even when she's a mess.
Mr. Maxwell was surprised that that was all he was thinking about after everything he had said. Miss Neon looked tired and unkempt.
I heard from the people working at the station that Miss Bennett is doing some detective work now,
he said.
It's an extremely dry and tiresome job. She has to work overtime often. I think Miss Bennett is quite exhausted.
Jack nodded his head and wrote,
I can't bear to watch her suffer.
Mr. Maxwell sighed. He didn't know what else to say.
If you can't let her go, you should court her bravely.
Jack shook his head sadly and wrote,
I can't. She told me that she hasn't forgotten her ex-boyfriend. What if she's unhappy when she's with me?
Mr. Maxwell was stunned. How could there be anyone so silly? He said,
It's normal to go after someone that you like.
Jack wrote,
If she doesn't like me, I will only burden her with my feelings.
Mr. Maxwell was silent. Jack continued writing,
I'll wait. If she gets back together with her ex-boyfriend and they're happy, I'll give my blessings to her. If they don't end up together, I will go look for her. I won't let her be lonely.
Mr. Maxwell's heart ached. Miss Bennett knew his thoughts. She would be very touched.
How could you bear to withstand the hurt by yourself? He asked.
Jack thought for a moment and wrote,
It's okay if I'm hurt. I just don't want her to be unhappy.
Mr. Maxwell had only one word in his mind. Silly. When Sylvia got home and opened the door, a small shadow ran toward her and happily barked. Jackie! Sylvia patted the puppy's head. Jackie raised its head and looked at her pitifully, its tail wagging. Sylvia picked the puppy up. She felt melancholic. Someone like Jack was destined to buy a passerby in her life. A week later, the nanny van was downstairs. Winnie got into the vehicle. Bob looked at her and said,
You've gained some weight.
Winnie blushed. How could she not gain weight? Her meals used to be simple when she was alone. Recently, not only did she have all sorts of porridge for breakfast, but she also had some nice bacon and eggs, pancakes, and other snacks that Jeffrey brought to her. Apart from that, Jeffrey always brought her some after-dinner snacks around 9 p.m. She had chicken wings a few times, but then Jeffrey told her that eating too many chicken wings wouldn't be good for her health. The crab season had come, so he made her spicy crab twice. Winnie was always a slim girl, but she surprisingly gained a few kilograms. It was completely Jeffrey's fault.
You seem to have rested well recently. Bob smiled. This is good. You look sexier than before. I always say that you're pretty, but too thin.
Winnie responded. At her company, Star Music and Culture, her manager Tara threw her a file and said, This is Director Wood's new movie. They intend to invite you to sing the theme song for the movie. No way. Winnie's eyes bulged. She could scarcely believe it. Director Woods was an internationally renowned director. His works weren't always the box office champion, but were all classic. His production team was composed of real elites. Why not? I spoke to him for you myself. Tara sat on a chair nearby and crossed her legs. She wasn't 30 yet and was very capable. Currently, she was already the top one manager in the company. Many other singers were jealous of Winnie for having her as a manager. Tara, thank you! Winnie couldn't imagine how much effort Tara had made to get her that offer. She had heard about Director Woods' new movie. Many musicians wanted to work with him. She was new to the circle, so she didn't dare to even try. Don't mention it. It's for the both of us. The more popular you are, the more I'll earn. Tara shook a finger and said, They like you, but it's not final yet. They made more than one offer. Your competitors include Maddie Joseph and Patricia, who were both popular singers. Winnie instantly felt stressed out. Maddie was from Hong Kong. He had been famous for over a decade, and the tickets to his concerts were always sold out. Patricia started her career from a talent show. Currently, she was a very popular singer. She even held personal concerts abroad. Don't be nervous. Your voice is better than theirs. You are not as famous as they are, but you have your own advantages. You're cheap. Tara made a joke to comfort Winnie. Winnie didn't know what to say. That is a huge advantage, she thought. With a bitter smile, she said, Tara, it's Director Woods that we're talking about. Is he ever short of money? So many people want to invest in his work. But he never likes to waste money. Tara shook her head and said, Once he invited a beginner singer to sing the theme song for his film. Later on, that film became popular, and so did the song. The singer also became an instant hit. They've sent us a brief introduction to the film. They want you to write the lyrics for the song, and if your lyrics touch Director Woods, you'll be singing the theme song for the new movie. Winnie picked up the introduction and said, But the introduction is really simple. Go and watch Director Woods' old works. Feel his style before you start writing. And of course, our team will be helping you. Tara stood up, patted her on the shoulder, and said, Work hard. I have some other projects to do, so I better take off for now. After lunch, you'll fly to New York to shoot the magazine cover. It was a long weekend, so Jeffrey bought a few crabs for himself. He was making his broth with the crabs. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't get the taste of Winnie's porridge. He was frustrated. He opened his social media application and saw the pictures of scenery that Winnie had just posted. In one of the photos, she was wearing a nice dress standing on a bridge. She was smiling brightly and radiantly. Jeffrey stared at the phone and commented, Not pretty. Winnie ignored him, but April commented below, Don't be ridiculous. You look beautiful. Jeffrey threw his phone to the side. April called him soon after. Isn't it your holiday? Why didn't you come to Ma's place? I don't want to, Jeffrey coldly answered. Where are you? April asked. In my apartment, Jeffrey replied. April was worried. Her handsome brother was spending his holiday cooped up at home. Come over. I'm at Ma's place, she said. Let's have a meal together as a family. I haven't seen you since the wedding. I miss you. Jeffrey lightly laughed. His voice was full of skepticism as he replied, You miss me? Will Aaron allow you to miss me? What would I lie to you for? April asked. Of course I miss my good-looking brother. It's too bad I'm pregnant. Otherwise I would visit you every day. Jeffrey was silent because he finally agreed. Kenneth's cooking was not half bad. It took him an hour to drive over. When he entered the door, he saw Melissa talking to April on the couch. Kenneth was mopping the floor, which made him frown. We need a cleaner at home, Melissa lazily said. He volunteered. Jeffrey, how's school? You can ask me if you need help with anything. Kenneth stood up. Your dad used to be the principal of Lukesville University. I know some things about directing. Thanks, but it's fine. I know everything, Jeffrey said with a frown.
I thought you were going back to be a principal. How do you have time to be a cleaner here?"
Kenneth laughed and replied,
"I'm not going back anymore. I asked to be recommended as a professor at Point Star. I'll be teaching film studies there next semester. The principal was very welcoming. Jeffrey, I will be your professor next year."
The corner of Jeffrey's mouth twitched. April smiled and said, "Although Dad went to prison, he still retained his knowledge. He used to be a principal and is well experienced in the field. Point Star was very happy to welcome Dad to their faculty." Jeffrey couldn't help but say,
"It's a big difference in terms of salary being a professor here." "It's fine as long as I can still cook and clean for your mother."
Kenneth grinned and looked over at her.
"I'll cook up a feast for you tonight."
Jeffrey sat on the sofa and looked at Melissa, who took a graceful sip of her coffee. "He volunteered," she said with a shrug. "The little brat kicked me again," April suddenly said. Jeffrey looked over. April was wearing a thin dress. There was an obvious dent in her tummy.
"He's going to be a little devil,"
he said. April sighed and said, "I just want to give birth quickly and get back to work. I'm so envious of Winnie, who is flying everywhere." She looked over at Jeffrey at the mention of Winnie and asked, "You have Winnie's number? Have you eased your relationship with her? I heard from Marvin that you made chicken wings for her. Are you two—"
"I made chicken wings for her?" Jeffrey burst into a chuckle. "How can that be?"
"I don't think it's possible either," April said as she rubbed her belly. "Last time, Ryan called me and told me that you're with Ella." After hearing Ella's name, Jeffrey's expression slightly changed.
"You're married, but you're still in contact with Ryan? Does Aaron know about this? Do you need me to tell him?"
April gave him a glare and replied, "How dare you? We're just friends. We talk occasionally. What's the deal with you and Ella? She's Kiera's sister after all."
"Are you talking about the little girl who came to your wedding with Kiera?"
Melissa asked. Her eyes were glowing.
"She looks adorable and lively." "I have no interest in adorable and lively girls," Jeffrey blandly said. "Isn't Ryan an actor? He's supposed to be busy. Why does he have so much time?"
"He cares for you," April said. "What kind of girl do you like?"
"The ones that are quiet as a dead fish," Jeffrey replied.
April didn't know how to respond to that. She took a sip of hot water and said, "Keep a distance from Ella if you don't like her. Don't flirt with her."
"I got it,"
Jeffrey said. At lunchtime, Aaron got off work and came home. He held April in his arms and asked,
"My dear wife, did you miss me?"
April was still angry at him since earlier he had said that she was fat. She lazily gave him a glare. "Didn't I see you this morning?"
"Well, I missed you, so I thought you'd miss me too."
Aaron lowered his head to look into her eyes. April snorted. "I don't dare miss you. I'm like a ball now." Aaron smiled at her and said,
"Even if you're like a ball, I wouldn't dare roll you. I'd hold you in my hands carefully."
April squeezed his thigh. Those were not pleasant words. Aaron dodged in pain and said,
"Babe, I was just trying to say some tasteless love word."
Melissa spouted the water in her mouth. Her son-in-law honestly had terrible etiquette. April found him both funny and annoying. "Is that how you say tasteless love words? Where did you even hear the term tasteless love words from?"
"Richard is learning about that lately. He explained it to me roughly, and I think I got it."
Aaron answered the question honestly. "You got it," April laughed. "Forget it. Please stop learning that. If she had to hear those kinds of tasteless love words every day, she might give birth to the baby ahead of schedule." Aaron frowned. He hardly spent time learning how to say love words before, but she actually turned him down once he tried. Without knowing what else to say to her, he turned to Jeffrey.
"Can you please not be the third wheel while Marvin goes after Winnie?"
Jeffrey lazily picked up a piece of watermelon and said,
"They needed me."
Aaron didn't know how to respond. Sometimes he felt that Jeffrey was a master of conversations.
"Can you not eat the cake that he made at least?" he asked. "Don't worry, I won't eat it. It's not good."
Jeffrey shook his head. Aaron fell into silence again. "Ignore him," Melissa said. "He's just a sharp-tongued boy." "It's all right," Aaron said. "Thankfully Marvin isn't here." He figured he needed to remind Marvin to make a better cake. Jeffrey stayed in the house for the night and left Sunday evening. Melissa went to April's place for dinner. "That boy finally left," she said with a sigh. "He's so difficult to serve." "Mom, you barely did anything for him," April honestly said. "You didn't even cook for him." Melissa coughed slightly and said, "I had to put up with his sour face." April was speechless. How could it be? Her brother was so cute and handsome. She could look at him all day. On his way home, Jeffrey received a call. He made a detour to a cafe. In the cafe, Sean had already finished half a cup of coffee. Jeffrey sat opposite him. After having a sip of coffee, he ordered an affogato. Espresso paired with vanilla ice cream topped with a layer of ground nuts and a cookie. "You like these kind of sweet things?" Sean asked with a laugh. "You don't understand," Jeffrey casually replied. "All right, I don't understand," Sean said. "How's the editing of the script going I'm going to start shooting next month?" "I'll get it done in time," Jeffrey said. "I trust you enough," Sean said. "I want you to join me as the executive director for Team 2. I gave your mentor a heads up already." Jeffrey paused to think before saying, "I want to focus on my studies for now." "You'll learn more in the field than in school. Don't worry, you can come back after you're done with your scenes," Sean said. "I get tired easily when I shoot outdoor scenes in difficult terrains. I can't handle it. I might not even make movies anymore. I want to do everything right from now on. Although you're young, you have a sharp sense of the classical cinematography. If you want to make a mark in the industry, this is a good opportunity to do so. Although you're well known overseas, the mainland landscape is slightly different. Don't worry, you have full authority over which direction you want to take. Although I am the main director, I won't interfere with your work." Jeffrey paused for a while before agreeing. "How's the casting coming along?" "You can take a look at the list." Sean handed over the document. Jeffrey scanned through the names quickly. The male lead was fine. He was someone of caliber and skill, but the female lead? "Why did you cast this actress?" he asked. "She's too young and her acting." "She had potential," Sean said. "She is the most hardworking amongst young actresses nowadays. She's got a good work ethic, and she's popular. She has a strong fan base. Apart from her, we would be looking at older, more well-established actresses. I was hoping to attract a younger crowd if we cast her. She came to look for me herself and expressed her sincerity to work on this project. I have a good impression of her." Jeffrey didn't say anything else. He was a little stunned when he saw the list of singers. The final artist was unconfirmed, but Winnie's name appeared on the short list. "Singers?" "We haven't decided yet. They all have their own strengths," Sean said. "I asked them to write a song. I will choose the winner based on the lyrics they submit. It has to be something that fits with the theme of the film." "Winnie just got popular and she's very young," Jeffrey said. He didn't expect himself to comment on the matter. "I've listened to her songs before. She's got talent. We can give it a shot, and she's cheap." Sean was laughing like a cunning fox. Jeffrey glanced at him and said, "I'm surprised you care about such a small amount of money. They won't charge a lot to sing the theme song for your new movie, will they?" "No, they won't. They're competing." Sean finished his coffee. The conversation lasted until 9 p.m. Back at home, Jeffrey opened the fridge and saw the chicken wings. His eyes lingered on them for a few seconds, then he took a bottle of soda and closed the fridge door. Having after-dinner snacks alone was a little boring. He couldn't even finish the chicken wings. He made spicy chicken wings tonight. After thinking for a moment, he took a picture of the wings, then sent it to Winnie. It was morning in New York time. As Winnie got up from the bed, she saw the picture. Instantly, she felt hungry. A short while later, she received a message from Jeffrey. "I can't eat them alone, so I dumped them." He sent her another picture of the chicken wings in the trash can. "Such a waste," Winnie responded regretfully. After a shower, Jeffrey lay on his bed, his lips curved in a smile. It was a waste indeed. "You're not here. What else could I do?" he thought. He replied to Winnie, "Do you see that trash can? You're that trash can." Winnie was so angry she wanted to vomit blood. She seriously didn't understand why Jeffrey sent her that message. She assumed that he wanted to make her angry. Jeffrey waited for 4 minutes, but he never received another message from her. He decided to send her a new message. "Bring me a bagel." The message wasn't delivered because Winnie had deleted him from her contacts. He paused briefly, then angrily threw his phone. "How dare she delete me? That's so awful." On Tuesday, Jeffrey was lying on the couch reading a film script. Suddenly, he heard people talking outside. He instantly put on his slippers and walked out and said, "Winnie, you deleted me?" He opened the door to see Winnie and Bob. Winnie was holding a key. She was stunned when she saw him, while Bob had his eyes dazzled on Jeffrey's pretty face. Winnie's neighbor was so handsome. "Winnie, this is—" "My neighbor and schoolmate." Winnie flipped her hair and explained awkwardly. "Oh," Bob responded to her, then hurriedly said to Jeffrey, "Hi, are you working with a company already? Do you want to be a star? I can recommend you to my company." "I'm not interested," Jeffrey interrupted Bob, then walked to Winnie, looking down at her coldly, and asked, "Why did you delete me?" Seeing the dangerous look on his face, Bob hurriedly stood before Winnie and said, "Oi, clearly she deleted you because she might not like you. A forced relationship can never bring happiness. Besides, Winnie's career is going uphill. It's not the right time for her to start a relationship." "Why are you so mad?" Bob blinked and continued saying, "She deleted you, but that's not a big deal." Jeffrey paused for a moment as he didn't know how to respond. A short while later, he said with a cold voice, "That was impolite. Of course I'm mad." Winnie raised her head. Her face was snow white and her hair was hanging loosely over her shoulders. "You said that I'm a trash can," she said, her eyes containing anger. "That's the reason." Jeffrey frowned. Winnie turned her face away. She was really angry at that moment, but it soon faded. After all, she knew about his weird personality. "Add me," Jeffrey gave an order. Winnie turned her face further away. She didn't want to add him. Why would I add him? To hear him call me a trash can again? She thought. "Are you gonna add me or not?" Jeffrey slightly narrowed his eyes. His eyes gave a dangerous light. Winnie glared at him. The silent eye contact lasted for a short while, but after, Winnie quietly took out her phone and added Jeffrey back. Bob was shocked. She submitted too easily. She decided to see Winnie in a whole new way from that day on. After Winnie added him, Jeffrey raised his brows happily and said, "Don't delete me next time. Oh, right, did you bring any food back from New York?" He changed the topic so quickly that she took a while to react. "I went there for an event, not for fun. I didn't have time to go shopping." Even if she did buy any snacks from there, she wouldn't have offered them to him. She thought, how dare he threaten me like that? She didn't know him well before. Now that she did, she knew that he was a complete glutton. Jeffrey frowned before unhappily walking back to his apartment. When the door shut, Bob sighed and said, "Winnie, are you guys flirting with one another?" Winnie's features were squashed together. "How can that be?" "I can understand. He's so handsome after all," Bob said. "Although we don't have any rules to forbid you from dating, we should still be careful. You should prioritize your career at the moment. Love can come later. If he really likes you, he won't mind waiting for you." Winnie was amused. "I'm not interested. I swear. He's my nemesis." Bob giggled and said, "There's a saying, isn't it foes become lovers?" Winnie opened the door. Bob carried her suitcase into the apartment. "Well, Winnie, if you really do it, remember to use a condom," Bob said. Winnie blushed, thinking, he really is jumping to conclusions. Unfortunately, the reminder came a little too late. She didn't use the condom, but she took the pill. Hopefully it worked, even though she took it a little late. "I won't," she insisted. I made plans with the company. I'll be moving to another place after the new year. I'm not interested in relationships right now. I'm just worried that you would be lonely at night. You two stay alone next to each other after all. You never know after spending so much time together, Bob said with a laugh. You can think about the lyrics for Director Woods. I won't disturb you. After Bob left, Winnie went to take a hot shower. Soon after she got out of the bathroom, her doorbell rang. She opened her door grudgingly, knowing who it likely was. As expected, Jeffrey was standing there with 2 crabs on a plate. They weren't cooked, but they looked fat and delicious. She looked at it and frowned. I'm not eating it. I'm not your rubbish bin. Jeffrey blinked and grinned. Don't overthink. These are the ingredients for the tomorrow. Winnie finally understood why April felt like punching someone in the past. She flung the door shut. Jeffrey stopped the door with his foot and asked, What are you doing? What do you think I'm doing? Winnie glared at him. Can't you tell that I'm upset? How could you call me a rubbish bin and then ask me to make you porridge? No woman will be able to stand you in the future. Oh, Jeffrey nodded his head. That's fine. I'm not interested in women anyway. I don't believe you, Winnie said. How could he say that when they had such a passionate night together? I don't believe you don't have any needs. I do, Jeffrey nodded his head. But would I find a woman just to take care of those needs? I don't think so. Winnie was stunned. His words made sense. I have hands, he said. If I have needs, I can solve it myself. Winnie had no idea how to respond to that. She thought, all right, that is very reasonable. If all men in this world were like him, the world would be a safer place for women. Jeffrey walked in, put the crabs on the table, and said, Keep them. These are genuine large crabs. The harvest is no good this year. I asked a friend of mine to get me these. Most of those that you find on the markets are fake. It's hard to find genuine ones. Winnie curved her lips downward. It sounded like she needed to thank him for the genuine large crabs. Jeffrey looked around. He saw the introduction of the new film on the table and picked it up. Don't touch it, Winnie hurriedly said. Is this Sean Wood's new film? Jeffrey raised his eyebrows and opened the file. It's a simple introduction. Why do you have this? Since he was already holding the file, Winnie had no choice but to explain. Everyone wants to sing the new theme song for Director Woods' new movie. We're competing. The singer who writes the best lyrics gets to do the theme song. If it goes well, that singer can also do the interlude songs. Do you have any inspiration? Jeffrey asked while turning the page. No, Winnie sighed. The introduction is too simple. I can't tell what exactly Director Woods wants. I plan to watch his old films tonight. Watch his No Return, Jeffrey said. Winnie was a little confused at first. She then recalled that Jeffrey was a director. She heard that he was pretty good. Sean Wood's works often involve love stories, but in fact, he himself values the affection between families more, Jeffrey turned and said. If he wrote a song about love, he wouldn't be touched. Winnie's brain worked really fast at that moment. If this new film isn't about love, it won't be about family affection and friendship either. He's trying to talk about human nature and betrayal. Yeah, human nature, Jeffrey nodded. You can start from that. There are rarely lyrics like that nowadays, Winnie said. It depends on how you will show the theme vividly. I'm not a singer, Jeffrey said. He put his hands in his pockets and left. Winnie spent a long time thinking. She finally found No Return online and watched it until 1 a.m. The movie even made her cry. Before going to bed, she grasped some faint inspiration. She started writing that night. Around 4 a.m., she huddled on the couch and fell asleep. She was awoken by the sound of knocking on the door. She drowsily answered the door and saw Jeffrey standing there. Seeing her, Jeffrey was stunned a little. It was the first time he saw her in such awful shape. Her hair was messy and there were sofa marks on her face. Her eyes were half closed and her white pajama top nearly fell off her left shoulder, exposing her pretty shoulder bones and smooth skin. Looking at her, he felt that his throat suddenly became a little dry. He blinked and asked in a deep voice, "Where's my breakfast?" "Breakfast?" Winnie paused for a few seconds and suddenly woke up. "Oh my, I overslept. What time is it?" 10 to 8. Noticing the dark circles under her eyes, Jeffrey frowned and asked, "When did you go to bed?" "I don't remember. About 4 a.m. Winnie rubbed her eyes and said, "I forgot to make the porridge. It's too late now." Jeffrey was disappointed. He hadn't had it for days. He had been looking forward to it since the night before. "Why did you sleep so late last night?" he asked.
"I was writing lyrics for Director Woods' new film,"
Winnie said with a yawn.
"Let me have a look."
Jeffrey stepped into the house. Winnie recalled his advice from the night before, so she willingly showed him what she wrote. She went to wash up and brush her teeth while he read her work. Jeffrey briefly scanned through the lyrics. There were markings and annotations all over the paper, but he could tell that she was a sensitive artist. She grasped the crucial points he had mentioned and wrote the lyrics poetically. "What do you think?" Winnie poked her head out of her toilet as she was brushing her teeth. Her eyes were hopeful.
"It's still lacking if you want to compete against Maddie and Patricia."
Jeffrey stood up to pour himself some milk. Winnie spat out her toothpaste and asked, "How did you know that they were my competitors?" Jeffrey paused with a cup in his hand and calmly replied,
"I chatted with some of my friends in the industry and heard about it."
Winnie didn't doubt him. She asked, "Which part is lacking?"
"Beg me."
Jeffrey looked over at her. Winnie inhaled sharply and said, "I think you're being conceited." She thought, how can he ask her to beg him when he was at my place drinking my milk? What kind of person is he?
I don't mind being conceited,"
Jeffrey matter-of-factly said. "Well, I really have to thank you then," Winnie said as she gritted her teeth. If not for the fact he had gave her some advice the night before, she really wanted to chase him out of her house with a broom.
"You're welcome,"
Jeffrey laughed as he watched her cheeks angrily puff up.
"Forget it. On the account that we're good neighbors, I'll tell you. Your lyrics are too artistic and abstract. People might not relate to it."
"Director Woods has quite a similar sense of artistic direction," Winnie said. "I've listened to the theme songs of his films in the past."
"He used to be like that, but his tastes have changed over the years,"
Jeffrey said. He watched as Winnie's eyes lit up. "You know Director Woods?" Winnie looked at him with newfound respect.
"Is that strange? The circle is only this big after all. I won't help you with my connections, though. You should earn the gig by your own virtue."
Jeffrey turned and took a sip of milk. "I didn't ask you to help me," Winnie said with a pout. "Will you put me down?" Jeffrey was upset.
"What would I do that for? Think what you want of me."
He ignored her after that and sat down to eat his breakfast. When Winnie changed and walked into the living room, he was already gone. There was a cup of milk for her on the table, but it had gone cold.